The Magician of the Fairy Tale World. Chapter 61. It's a new thing for the king of the Middle Eastern countries to personally set up a test to recruit famous diviners. People from all over the country, and even many from abroad, who claimed to be diviners, came. Some called themselves wizards, some prophets, some seers, and others astrologers, some were commoners, some nobles or advisors to nobles. No matter what they called themselves, they were all skilled at manipulating crystal balls, tarot cards, tea leaves, and turtle shells, speaking cryptic words, claiming to see others' futures and pasts, and converse with the dead. Hundreds of cloaked, hooded, and mysteriously dressed people gathered in the royal capital, a truly novel sight. The one in charge of this assessment was Prince Eric. He took over this task from his father, responsible for selecting the most accurate diviner among all the diviners. In fact, he truly wanted to know the background of that amnesiac girl, more than anyone else. By the way, if there really was such a powerful diviner, the prince also wanted to ask him or her, who was the girl who saved him in that shipwreck, the savior who resembled the amnesiac girl. He awaited the answers to these two questions. While the prince was eagerly anticipating, Ariel in the palace was terrified. She didn't know how many of the diviners from various places were frauds and how many possessed true talent. If the prince knew I was a mermaid from the sea, what would he do to me? Would he still hold my hand as usual to watch the sunset and sunrise? Would he view me as a non-human monster? Because humans fear and despise mermaids so much. Today, Rhine also put on a light-colored robe and a wizard hat, looking exactly like a free-spirited wandering mage. He was also mixed in with the large crowd of applicants. Aurora followed beside the young boy, acting as the mage's bodyguard. These two lovely and beautiful children undoubtedly attracted the attention of the surrounding adults. Little ones, what are you doing here? The guard responsible for registration asked the two oddly dressed children. There's something important happening here today, you can't just come in freely. Rhine smiled without speaking, handing over an envelope. Please take a look. The guard was puzzled but still opened the envelope and carefully read its contents and the accompanying verification documents. A few seconds later, the guard's expression changed dramatically. He respectfully bowed to Rhine and Aurora, and amidst the astonished gazes of others, gestured for them to enter. Please come in, Sage of Rose Kingdom, the guard exclaimed. I've always heard legends about you, heard that you were traveling the continent, I didn't expect you to have traveled here already. Under the confused and shocked gazes of the surrounding adults, the guard escorted Rhine and Aurora to the venue. The prince stood on the plaza in front of the palace, beginning to preside over the assessment competition. The first round was the simplest. In front of each diviner's table were 10 inverted bowls, with only one hiding a gold coin underneath. Contestants had to be blindfolded and find the bowl with the gold coin without touching the bowls. Rhine found the bowl with the gold coin in just 1 second, as if he knew where the gold coin was from the start. Meanwhile, the other contestants were still deep in thought, or muttering strange words, or seeking help from different deities. Such a simple test eliminated most of the eccentric, cryptic individuals, with only 1/10 of the contestants advancing to the next round. So, they really were just guessing, Aurora sighed. From a statistical perspective, yes, said Rhine, who had easily completed the task. As a mage, Rhine knew that even true mages didn't all understand divination and prophecy. Most of those who could participate were probably just skilled in deception. Even if there were a few contestants with genuine talent, how could they compare to him, who had mastered the power of prophecy for many years? The second test was much more difficult. A court painter would stay in a closed small room, improvising and painting a picture alone. And the diviners in the open space had to copy that painting out of thin air. The prince went in and out of the small room, sometimes checking the progress of the court painter's work, and sometimes looking at the contestants' paintings outside. The court painter picked up his brush, and in a short while, he drew a delicate and beautiful rose in the center of the paper. The prince went out to look again. The things drawn by the contestants were varied, vastly different from what the court painter had made. Some drew mountains, some drew portraits, and some drew battle scenes. At this moment, the prince noticed that one table and chair set was empty, there was no one on the stool, and the contestant had disappeared. Where is the person here? The prince asked. There was a silver-haired child sitting there. He said he was going to take a nap and didn't want to waste any more time here, so he left early, leaving only a painting here, the people around replied. The prince looked closely, and indeed there was a painting on the table. The painting depicted a man proposing to a woman, the former holding a vibrant rose in his hand, occupying the most central position of the entire painting. Oh my, this is so similar. The prince exclaimed in his heart. The flower in the painting was almost identical to the one made by the court painter. The only pity is that the other parts are wrong. The court painter only painted a flower, not a proposal scene. The prince couldn't help but feel sorry for this contestant. If he hadn't added unnecessary parts, he would surely have advanced. With this thought, Prince Eric walked back into the small room where the court painter was. Upon seeing that the paper still showed a delicate rose, the prince breathed a sigh of relief. Are you finished? The prince asked. No, not yet, my prince. I feel the current picture is too empty. The painter said. Over the next half hour, to the astonishment of the prince, the court painter added more details to all four sides of the painting. Finally, the court painter completed the painting. It was exactly the one the prince had seen before. Have you revealed to anyone what you were going to paint today? The prince asked incredulously. Of course not, my prince. It wasn't until half an hour ago when you entered the room that I felt this painting was too empty and wanted to add some details to it. And before a painting is officially completed, even I don't know what its final form will be, the painter said. Gods. That contestant, everyone said it was a child, saw that painting even earlier than the painter himself, just as a reader knows the story's development earlier than the author, the prince was stunned. This time, only two people passed. Rhine was, of course, one of them, and the only contestant who completed the painting earlier than the painter. Why did your copied replica appear earlier than the original? The prince asked the child who had returned to his seat. If one doesn't know the outcome before the event begins, how can it be considered prophecy? Rhine said. In other matters, beyond paintings, can you also see so clearly? The prince asked excitedly again. Such a diviner must be able to see the background of that amnesiac girl and who his benefactor was who saved him initially, right? I can't guarantee it. The more important the destiny, the more branches and possibilities it has, and only vague fragments can be known, Rhine replied truthfully. Rhine noticed that the other qualifier also seemed to be a mage. He had an exaggerated eagle nose and shifty eyes. His facial features were different from everyone else's, with a more distinct exotic flair, and his skin was dark brown. He seems to look a bit different from the others, Rhine asked a nearby guard. Yes. He seems to be called Maglido, claiming to be a mage from the Middle Eastern countries who just recently traveled here, the guard said. Middle Eastern countries. Rhine's thoughts raced. He and Aurora wondered if they would have the chance to travel there. The third assessment was the most complex. The only two qualifiers had to go out to sea with fishing boats and use their prophetic knowledge to guide the fishermen in catching fish, telling them when and where to cast their nets. The amount of fish caught would be the final standard for victory. The Middle Eastern countries lived by the sea, so fishing and navigation were quite important. That's why there was such a competition. My prince, I request that my boat cast its net first, said the mage who called himself Maglido. No problem. It doesn't matter who goes first or last, the prince said. Maglido then went out to sea with the fishing boat and pointed to a certain area of the sea. After the fishermen cast their nets, they indeed caught much more fish than usual. 4 or 5 fishermen had to use all their strength to pull these fish onto the boat. Seeing the fish lively in the net, Maglido laughed heartily and said to Rhine on the other boat. Little one, I'm definitely winning this time. He knew that the direction he pointed to was the location in this sea area where the most fish could be caught today. As for that boy, even if his prophecy was precise, he would still cast his net after him. He couldn't possibly conjure more fish out of thin air. Facing Maglido's arrogant laughter, Rhine merely smiled without speaking. On the other boat, Rhine pointed to a body of water, instructing the fishermen to cast their nets. While waiting to pull in the net, the young boy quietly took out the shell-carved, pearl-inlaid flute. This was a gift from the Sea King to him, as a token of friendship from the Sea Kingdom court, representing that Rhine and Aurora would always be honored guests of the Sea Kingdom. As long as the flute was played, even mermaids in the deep sea could hear it. Rhine quietly played the flute, and the melodious flute sound was covered by the strong winds on the sea. No human noticed it. But this strange melody entered the sea. The mermaids who had been waiting there knew what to do when they heard the flute. Mermaids regarded the fish in the sea much like humans on land regarded cattle and sheep. The difference was that it was much easier for them to tame fish than for humans to domesticate livestock, because mermaids only needed to sing, and the fish in the sea would obey their call. The mermaids from sea country greeted each other. It's the signal from Mage Rhine. As agreed, it's our turn to act. We must help the mermaid princess gain the prince's love and an immortal soul. The mermaids hummed beautiful melodies in the sea, herding the fish like shepherds herding sheep on a grassland. They drove all the fish into the net. Rhine picked up another shell, cast a spell, and threw it into the sea. As soon as it fell into the sea, the shell opened its mouth and sang a beautiful song, which echoed through the sea, attracting more fish. The mermaid princess's song. After a while, Rhine said, "All right, now you can pull up the net." The fishermen began to pull in the net, but they failed. They exerted all their strength but could not pull up the net full of fish. "Prince, it's too heavy. There are too many fish. I've been fishing for many years and have never seen so many fish." The fishermen exclaimed in unison. Rhine clapped his hands, infusing life and magic into the fishing net, and pulled up the loaded fish, causing gasps of astonishment from the surrounding crowd. The final winner, of course, was Rhine. Prince Eric held Rhine's hand, congratulating him on becoming the winner. The mage who called himself Maglito never expected to lose to a child. He glared at Rhine and said fiercely, "You only won against me once. This is nothing at all. You wait, until I find the treasure that will make me the most powerful mage. Remember me, my name will echo throughout the continent in the future." Rhine ignored him, watching the furious Maglito disappear into the crowd. Just then, a guard ran to the prince and whispered a few words in his ear. The prince's gaze towards Rhine immediately held a few more hints of awe. "So that's it, your excellency is the sage of Rose Kingdom, a court mage with exquisite magic. I heard that Rose Kingdom is a prosperous northern country, and I've always wanted to see it with my own eyes. Respected mage, please follow me." The prince took Rhine's hand. "Mage, your task is to divine the origins of an amnesiac girl of mysterious background." Prince Eric led Rhine to the palace room where Ariel was, with Aurora following behind her teacher. In the palace, Princess Ariel was extremely nervous. She heard that many powerful diviners had come to apply, and her heart was uneasy. What if I'm discovered to be a mermaid? What should I do? She listened to the maid's report on the competition from inside the palace, hearing that powerful contestants were overcoming challenges and standing out. She finally learned that the winner was a court mage from a northern kingdom, a well-known sage. Oh my goodness, such a famous and powerful person has come, no wonder he could pass such difficult assessment stages. Since he is a well-known, true mage, just like the sea hag, then perhaps he really can know my origins. Ariel grew increasingly afraid, worried that the mage, upon discovering she was a monster, would mercilessly accuse her of being a monster and cruelly kill her. Worse than that would be not doing it himself, but making the prince do it. These days, Ariel had already understood that in the eyes of humans on land, mermaids were monsters symbolizing shipwrecks, storms, disasters, temptation, and curses. On the way to Ariel's room, the prince explained the task in detail. "Respected mage, as I just said, my father recruited diviners to ascertain the origins of a girl with a beautiful singing voice who has lost her memory. And my father also specifically emphasized that it must be found out how she obtained such a beautiful singing voice. Besides that, I personally have a special request. It relates to a voyage I took some time ago." At this point, the prince slightly raised his chin. He recalled the terrifying yet heartwarming night. "Please speak, prince. Whether it is the task entrusted by His Majesty your country, or your personal request, I will fulfill it," Rhine responded with a smile. Aurora, who was following behind, remained silent. After mutual communication and planning, they had already guessed what the prince's request was, but they tacitly kept it to themselves. The prince recounted that stormy night. "A month ago, I set sail on a ship. Before setting sail, the sailors on board said that if mermaids were seen surfacing and singing cursed songs, the ship would encounter misfortune and be caught in a terrifying storm. If no trace of mermaids was seen during the voyage, it meant that the journey would most likely be calm, and bright sunshine would fall upon the sea. That's just a superstition, Rhine said. He seized the opportunity to find an entry point and lay the groundwork for more important information. Sometimes, rumors are not necessarily true. As a prophet and diviner, I know very well that eyes often deceive humans. The truth may be far from what people know, even completely opposite. I have thoroughly researched mermaids and spoken with many of them. I know very well that mermaid songs cannot summon storms, nor will they intentionally lead sailors into dangerous waters filled with reefs and strong currents. In fact, quite the opposite, mermaids like to sing when a storm is about to arrive, in the darkening sky, accompanied by the storm. Their beautiful songs are precisely a warning, helping sailors bypass storms. Prince Eric nodded gently. So that's it. Thank you for the guidance, noble mage. He did not doubt the truthfulness of what Rhine said. The sage of a certain kingdom, a diviner who had just proven his abilities, such a distinguished identity naturally gave authority to the young man's words. The prince continued. Yes. We didn't see any singing mermaids along the way, but the storm still came. It was a night of disaster, too terrible to recall. The sky was terrifyingly dark, silver lightning streaked between the black clouds, the fierce wind carried cold rain, the howling of the wind swallowed the sailors' shouts, and the sound of thunder almost shattered our eardrums. The waves crashed down like massive black mountains. Our ship was like a toy in that storm, constantly being tossed to the crest of a wave and then plummeting down. Finally, I lost consciousness and fell into the sea. Recounting this unbearable memory, the still young prince's face couldn't help but turn a little pale, as if he was reliving that disastrous night. But immediately, this handsome prince smiled again. Fortunately, the huge waves carried me to the shore. A beautiful girl saved me, woke me up in the dawn's light, gave me food and water, and found the people nearby. I was disoriented at the time, but that girl's smile and figure were still imprinted in my mind. Coincidentally, the girl who saved me seems somewhat similar to the amnesiac girl with the beautiful singing voice. But I am certain they are not the same person. The girl who saved me spoke a few words to me, and she did not have such a beautiful voice. After saving me, that girl left and went to a temple in a forest. Respected mage, can you help me find that girl? Can you let me know her identity? Rhine nodded. Of course. It's not difficult for me to find that girl. Divination isn't omnipotent, it requires a medium and prior information. But the information Prince provided is already sufficient, and Prince himself, standing here, is the best medium. Besides, not much time has passed. What he didn't say was that the prior information needed for his divination not only came from the prince's account but more so from the advantage of having understood the story's cause and effect beforehand. The medium he used for divination was not only the prince standing there but also the fish scale in his large pocket. This beautiful fish scale came from another witness to the prince's story. Let's begin. Rhine took out a crystal ball and chanted a strange incantation. This crystal ball was also a gift from the Sea Kingdom, given to him by the Sea King and Ariel's sisters, which could enhance his prophecy and divination magic. Ordinary crystals came from deep within the earth, but absurdly, people who studied mysticism and seers who liked crystals classified them as having the attribute of water. Yet, the crystal ball in Rhine's hand came from the deep sea, a gem formed after thousands of years of compression of deep-sea water, possessing magic not found on land. It was precisely by relying on this magical crystal ball that he was able to see the painting's appearance before the court painter had even finished it. Let me resolve Prince's heartache, Rhine said while casting the spell. Specks of starlight emerged in the crystal ball, as if the boy held the vast universe in his hands. Wait a moment. Prince advised, let's deal with father's task first. The origin of that amnesiac girl is more important than what I want to know. Rhine, however, smiled. My prince, fate's arrangements have their own exquisite subtleties. Sometimes, people choose different paths at a fork in the road but ultimately arrive at the same destination. Sometimes, different questions can yield the same answer. Prince didn't understand Rhine's words, but he vaguely felt that the prophet was hinting at something. The gloom in the crystal ball dissipated, and specks of starlight converged into a colorful image, a sight that made Prince marvel inwardly. This is what a magician is. Although father said he had seen many magicians perform spells and display miracles, for me, this is a fresh experience, the first time I've ever seen it. What appeared in the crystal ball was none other than Rhine, holding the crystal ball, and Prince, squatting down and leaning in to watch the scene in the crystal ball. What is this? Prince asked. Prince, this is our present, Rhine explained. Next, we will look from backward to forward. The scene in the crystal ball seemed to undergo a time reversal, like rewinding a modern film, with past scenes appearing one after another. First, Rhine retrieved the crystal ball, and the two walked backward, talking as they went. Then came the recent competition, where Prince announced Rhine's victory on the fishing boat. After that, the crystal ball's rewind sped up, so fast that Prince couldn't see anything clearly. Then, the constantly changing colored blocks re-stabilized into specific scenes, beginning to play in normal chronological order. In the crystal ball, the unconscious Prince lay on the shore, the dawn light illuminating his face. He looked pale and bloodless, exactly the complexion of someone who had just fallen into the water. That's me, I'm about to see the girl who saved me. Prince was extremely excited. That was the person he had longed for day and night. Soon after, a young woman walked over. She was stunned when she saw the unconscious Prince. She woke Prince up and called for the people nearby. Everything was exactly as Prince remembered. Quick, esteemed magician, please zoom in on that woman's face a bit. I want to see her appearance again, Prince said eagerly. As you wish, Rhine said. So the woman's face grew larger and clearer. Prince truly saw that beautiful face. Her skin was delicate and fair, and beneath her long, dark eyelashes were eyes filled with a smile. This was the face he had longed for day and night. Yes, it's her, Prince exclaimed excitedly. He was, after all, just an adolescent boy under 16. But then, Prince suddenly noticed something was wrong. No, why isn't it the same? Prince remembered the amnesiac girl with the beautiful singing voice. When he had taken her in, he had thought she looked very much like the girl who had saved him. However, when Prince Eric saw the woman who saved him with his own eyes, he realized that the two girls didn't resemble each other at all. Although they were both beautiful, there was no similarity in either their figures or their facial features. But Prince was also absolutely certain that the beautiful woman now displayed in the crystal ball was indeed the one who had saved him. Why? Why did they bear no resemblance to each other? Prince was stunned, confused and bewildered, as if he had just woken from a long dream. Prince, please continue watching. Rhine caressed the smooth surface of the crystal ball again, and the scene in the crystal ball rewound once more. Time rewound again. The tranquil dawn in the crystal ball disappeared, replaced by the stormy night. The howling winds, the deafening thunder, and the cries and prayers of the sailors came from the crystal ball. Silver lightning snakes moved through the heavy dark clouds, and black giant waves were as massive as mountains, making the ship appear tiny. Prince clenched his fists, as if he had fallen back into the nightmare of old. They were back, all of them. All the elements of that unbearable nightmare were back. In the crystal ball, he saw the ship he was on, saw himself on the ship, saw the ship being tossed into the air by the black giant waves and then falling, saw the thick ship planks being smashed by the raging waves, and saw himself falling into the sea. Esteemed magician, why are you playing such a scene? Prince asked, his face already pale. Isn't this exactly what you and your father requested? Rhine smiled. Didn't you want to know where that amnesiac girl with the world's most beautiful singing voice came from? In the crystal ball, a graceful figure moved rapidly through the dark sea. That beautiful figure bravely swam against the violent currents, passing through broken ship beams and planks, not caring at all about the danger that they might crush her. That figure was half human, but her lower body trailed a long fish tail. She leapt out of the waves, rushed to Prince's side, and held him tightly in her embrace, not daring to let go for a moment. Then Prince saw the beautiful figure's face, that incredibly familiar face. He saw her again. Prince Eric could never forget that girl's face. The amnesiac girl he had picked up from the coast. Why? Why was she there? He had never expected to see the amnesiac girl again in this setting. His heart was churning with a tempest, far greater than the dark giant waves in the crystal ball's image. He saw that the girl in the crystal ball's image had the same light figure and beautiful face as today, the only difference being that her lower body was not the slender legs she now possessed, but a beautiful, light fish tail, adorned with pearls and shells, swaying flexibly in the rushing giant waves. This is. The prince trembled, unable to speak, his gaze fixed on the mermaid's face in the crystal ball, fixed on that unforgettable face etched deep into his soul. How many times had he walked with that girl to watch the sunrise and sunset? Behind them, it was either the bright red rising sun or the blood-red setting sun, and the sunlight near the ground stretched their shadows long. How many times had he given that girl precious clothes made of silken light gauze, holding that girl's hand, walking through the palace corridors. Everyone who saw the girl's walking posture couldn't help but turn back and praise her, saying it was the lightest posture they had ever seen in their lives, so light that it didn't seem like a human walking on the ground, but like a fish leaping in the water, and today the prince saw what that girl looked like when she was still in the water. He remembered that day, the girl stood alone in the center of the royal palace hall, gently raising her chin to reveal her slender neck, and sang a song. It was the most beautiful song in the human world, making the migratory birds flying high in the sky unable to resist turning, and the pouring servant forgot that the fine wine was overflowing from the golden cup. When the prince heard the song, he only remembered to cry and applaud, forgetting all words of praise, because human words could not describe this non-human song. Until today, the prince finally knew why that girl possessed such a beautiful song, because it was indeed not a human song. The prince was speechless, hot tears streamed down from his beautiful dark eyes, drawing 2 lines of tears on the young man's handsome face. In the crystal ball's image, the mermaid tightly held the prince in the violent sea, not daring to relax for a moment. At that time, the prince's face was as pale as a dead person, his eyes were tightly closed, and he kept coughing out salty and wet seawater. The mermaid used all her strength to try and lift his head out of the water, allowing him to breathe fresh air. The storm covered them, and the fierce waves pushed them to who knows where, but the mermaid never let go. The crystal ball's image rotated once more. The storm ended, and the sky slowly brightened. The bright red sun rose from the east, and sunlight fell on the sea. The mermaid thus carried the unconscious prince, swimming as close as possible to the nearest land. She gazed at his eyelashes wet with seawater and his tightly closed eyes, revealing a charming smile. Immediately after, the mermaid kissed the prince's forehead. At the moment of the kiss, the prince's eyes opened slightly, and then closed again. So that's how it is. The prince trembled, he understood everything. No wonder the amnesiac girl's features were nothing like the human woman who woke him on the shore, yet he always felt the girl was like the one who saved him. When the mermaid kissed the prince's forehead, the moment his eyelids slightly opened, he remembered the mermaid's beautiful yet brave countenance. This memory and the appearance of the human girl who woke him merged together, collectively forming the image of his savior in his memory. In fact, the truth was exactly that, both of them saved him. One was after the sun rose, and the other was in the dark storm, risking her life to be hit by broken masts and ship planks, swimming through the raging waves all night. The former was etched in his heart, while the latter was forgotten by him. And the magician fairly showed him the images of both saviors. The ones who saved you were 2 girls. But I think, in your memory, their images might have merged into a blurry face, Rhine said, holding the crystal ball. This is the answer you seek and the truth your father wants to know. The prince then remembered his father's command. So, the amnesiac girl I picked up on the coast, the girl with the most beautiful singing voice in the world, is a mermaid. But I clearly saw that she had human legs. Rhine stroked the crystal ball again. Princess Ariel, that is, the girl you picked up on the coast, and also the girl who saved you on that stormy night, in order to come ashore to find you, gain your love and an immortal soul, specifically went to the terrifying sea witch to have her beautiful fish tail cut into the shape of human legs. The scene returned to Ariel asking the sea hag for the magic potion. My beautiful princess, ha 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 ha, your wish is truly foolish. You actually want to remove your fish tail, grow 2 human flesh legs, and turn into a human deformity to go ashore. You want a handsome prince to fall in love with you, to pour his fervent thoughts and emotions into you, thereby gaining an immortal soul. A human falling in love with a creature of the sea, what a ridiculous fantasy. The prince looked at the sea hag's ugly smile, watched Princess Ariel, with her pale face and trembling voice, recall her resolute words, and he could no longer control his sobs. In the crystal ball's vision, Rhine deliberately made his and Aurora's images very blurry, making it seem like the mermaid princess had merely coincidentally encountered another magician of the ocean. When the sea hag demanded the mermaid princess's voice as payment, the kind magician gave the princess a free magic potion. Thank that kind magician, the prince said. God bless. Fortunately, he was there. Otherwise, I would never have heard that girl's, I mean Ariel's, exquisitely beautiful singing. There's nothing more regrettable in the world than that. Rhine stroked the crystal ball again and again, and scenes from different time periods appeared in sequence. Those scenes he had personally experienced or knew well were relatively clear, while those he knew less about were more blurry. The prince saw great-grandmother stroking Ariel's beautiful long hair, telling the mermaid princess stories of humans and their immortal souls. He saw Ariel and her sisters chasing fish underwater. He saw the Sea King wearing a crown and his magnificent underwater palace. He saw all aspects of the sea country. He had known that girl for so long, yet he had never understood her as he did today. He learned that the girl who saved him was the princess of the sea country. He remembered once saying the girl was like a foreign princess, and that was indeed the case, only that kingdom was not on land but beneath the towering waves. He learned the secret of the immortal soul. He learned the curse Ariel bore. He knew that if he did not fall in love and marry Ariel, the girl would turn into sea foam. He knew everything he should know. Prince Eric could no longer control himself, suddenly turned his body, and flew towards the direction of Ariel's palace. He could not wait another moment to tell her of his fervent love. Watching the princes retreating back, Rhine and Aurora exchanged a smile. Inside the palace, Ariel's room. Princess Ariel nervously awaited the arrival of the winning diviner, the sage of Rose Kingdom, who was responsible for revealing her identity. Her slender hands clasped together, her heart pounded, and her new feet incessantly rubbed the ground, as if she were about to walk to the execution ground. Ariel. The prince pushed open the door and embraced her. He held her so tightly, not daring to let go for a moment, as if she would disappear if he relaxed even a little, because the prince knew that on that stormy, nightmarish evening, she had held him just as tightly. My girl, I know everything, I know all that I should know. Oh my God, I can't believe I didn't know it until today. The prince was so excited he was incoherent. He wanted to say something but didn't know where to begin. Ariel was utterly bewildered, completely failing to understand what the prince was saying. She felt her cheeks dampen, only to realize it was from the prince's hot tears. My prince, what are you saying? What do you know? Ariel was both excited and flustered. The next moment, she suddenly realized that when the prince entered, he had called out her name, Ariel, her true name as the Princess of Sea Kingdom. This was the first time she had heard the prince call her name since they met. Ariel, that foreign magician told me everything about you. I know your identity, I know you are a mermaid from the sea, and a princess too. Ha 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 ha, when I first saw you, I said you looked like a foreign princess, and I was right after all. I saw the underwater mermaid kingdom, I saw your king and sisters, I saw the majestic and magnificent palace under the sea. Your sea kingdom is far more beautiful than the kingdoms on land. A common pearl decorating your palace is more lustrous and beautiful than the jewels on my queen's crown. I know it was you who saved me on that stormy night. You are the girl I've longed for, the one who saved me. I also know what risks you took to come to this land, to grow these ugly, deformed fleshy pillars that humans call legs. The prince spoke incoherently, wishing he could blurt out everything he knew to prove to the girl before him that he finally understood her and was worthy of being with her. So, you know everything. You know it in such detail. Prince Eric, my prince. Ariel was too astonished to speak. She felt her cheeks even wetter than before. But this time, it was her own tears that dampened her face. Ariel couldn't help but think. Who is that foreign sage? What a great magician he is, to be able to reveal my entire past. He can even peer into the sea kingdom beneath the 10,000 waves. That magician hasn't even met me yet. She wrapped her arms around Prince Eric's neck, her pale, slender hand caressing the handsome youth's face. She stared into the prince's dark, shining eyes and said, word by word. My prince, now that you know I am a mermaid, don't you discriminate against me. Don't you fear me. I'm not even human, just a monster from the deep sea. In your world, mermaids are seen as the embodiment of shipwrecks. Of course not, the prince said, trembling. I've long known that those are all slanders and rumors against you and your kind. He didn't mention he had only found out today. What difference is there between humans on land and mermaids in the deep palace? What distinguishes races is merely physiological structure, but what determines whether we can be together is the resonance of our hearts. The prince held Ariel even tighter. In this palace, everyone is my kin, yet no one is more similar to me than you. From my king, to the princes and ministers who flatter me insincerely, all they care about are things I'm not interested in. But you are different from them. You discuss romantic stories from novels with me, and talk about my hunting experiences in the forest. Because we are both romantic children, not those adults. Before a choked-up Ariel could reply, the prince kissed her lips. I love you, my girl, my princess, my Ariel. Whether you are human or mermaid, whether you have a fish tail or two legs, I love you. Let us be together, for all eternity, never to be separated. I will walk with you down the aisle, and in the presence of the priest, I will place my hand on your chest and pour all my feelings and love into you. In this way, you will gain an immortal soul. To offer an immortal soul is a gift to a loved one. Even if I exhaust all the stories, epics, and fairy tales of read, there is nothing more romantic than this. He then kissed the girl's long, beautiful eyelashes, and the girl kissed him back. I'll find a suitable time to go see my king. I'll ask him to allow us to be together, Prince Eric said. But how will you describe my identity to your king? Ariel worried. Even if you can accept me, will your king allow you to marry a mermaid from the deep sea? I will try my best to persuade him. The prince's tone was incredibly firm. I don't want to marry the princess of Enda, and make an eternal vow with someone I've never known. I won't fall in love with her. I only love you, my princess. Just then, the prince's gaze fell behind Ariel, seeing the figure of a young man in the open doorway. You've arrived, esteemed magician. The prince exclaimed excitedly. Ariel, quickly turn around and look at him. He is the one who made me understand you so well. He told me everything I needed to know. Let us thank him. Ariel was a little nervous, a little anxious, as she slowly turned her head. What will the final winner of the diviner's assessment, the sage of Rose Kingdom, the powerful magician who can reveal my identity, be like? Will he be an old man with white hair and a long beard? The mermaid princess's head completely turned. Reflected in her pupils was a boy in a light-colored cloak, as if he had stepped out of a fairy tale book. She saw his bright silver short hair and delicate face wrapped beneath his hood, his pale, almost translucent skin, and eyes that glowed with a cool light. Ariel's mouth dropped open, and she almost cried out. That foreign sage, the great magician, was him. Her human friend whom she had just recently met, the kind magician who had given her human legs to come to land. No wonder he knew so much. Ariel instantly understood everything. Rhine waved to his mermaid friend, placing a finger on his lips, making a shush gesture. The mermaid princess immediately closed her mouth, pretending she had never seen Rhine before. Seeing the prince on land and the princess from the sea embracing tightly, Rhine smiled. This tender scene was like eternity. Of course, after a short while, this beautiful silence was interrupted by a voice from outside. Prince, the Enda delegation has arrived. The king wants you to go to the Great Hall quickly, saying he wants to discuss your marriage to the Princess of Enda. Also, His Majesty reminds you to bring the amnesiac girl with the beautiful singing voice. She is to perform a song for the Enda delegation. Enda. Hearing the name of this enemy kingdom that had once invaded Rose Kingdom, both Rhine and Aurora, who had just walked in from outside, raised their eyebrows. To Rhine's knowledge, Enda was one of the strongest military powers on the western continent. And their mighty warships on the sea were even more famous than their cavalry and chariots on land. This empire plundered neighboring countries like a bandit, seizing resources and land. Their royal pirates, holding royal letters of marque, dominated the seas, plundering merchant ships of all nations except their allies. At that time, Enda deliberately spread the truth of the curse, causing Rose Kingdom to fall into internal strife, taking advantage of the situation. Aurora had always resented this. Although Aurora, as commander, ultimately defeated the invaders, it was merely one unit they had overcome, making Enda realize that this war was unprofitable, so they naturally withdrew. It did not mean Rose Kingdom had the ability to resist such a powerful military empire. Moreover, in that war, not only did Aurora, as commander, charge into battle and stabilize morale, and the large dogs summoned by the 3 tinderboxes participate, but both Sage Rhine and the 12 good witches provided help, whether overtly or covertly, to varying degrees. In such a fantastical magical world with supernatural powers, for Enda to become a dominant empire feared by various nations, they must also have their own super warriors and magicians. However, in that small-scale war back then, none of them had appeared. Forgive me, esteemed magician, Ariel and I must first receive the Enda delegation, so we cannot entertain you for now. The prince arranged for his subordinates to prepare a luxurious guest room for Rhine and Aurora in the palace, then hurried away with Ariel. Just by seeing the worried expressions on the prince and Ariel's faces as they left, Rhine knew that for their marriage to succeed, the prince's love alone was far from enough. A royal family member cannot freely choose their spouse. Aurora sighed. It is said that the king of Rose Kingdom has arranged for Prince Eric to marry the princess of Enda. How can such a thing happen? Why is Ariel so unlucky? She then looked at Rhine. Teacher. Since Prince Eric's father, the king of Rose Kingdom, is particularly interested in Ariel's singing, is there a possibility he would agree to her marrying the prince? Rhine shook his head. The king doesn't need to use marriage as a bond to keep Ariel in the palace and serve him, at least he thinks so. If we want His Majesty the King to agree to this marriage, Ariel must prove she has greater political value than the Princess of Enda. Indeed, it's not enough for Prince Eric alone to know Ariel's mermaid identity, to understand and accept her, Aurora said with a touch of sadness. She didn't know when it started, but she had become increasingly concerned about Ariel's future, genuinely not wanting her mermaid friend's heart to shatter and turn into sea foam. Aurora seemed to think of something and asked again. Teacher, do we need to avoid the Enda delegation? Will they come looking for trouble? Aurora said this, not worried that someone in the Enda Kingdom's delegation would recognize her. At that time, when fighting against the Enda Kingdom invaders, she wore a helmet and a mask, and also had the witches add some illusionary disguises for her. What Aurora was worried about was that Rhine's current identity had been made public. Many people in the royal palace had heard that the diviner recruited by the king was a magician from the Rose Kingdom in the north. As the sage of Rose Kingdom and a well-known magician who had once fought against the Enda Kingdom invaders, he might provoke hostility from the Bandit Kingdom's delegation. No need. We're not afraid of them anyway. Rhine shrugged. I think so too. Aurora agreed with her teacher, raising her fist and waving it vigorously in the air a few times. If they cause us trouble, we'll hit back. The two then walked back to the luxurious room Prince Eric had arranged for them. Sitting on the soft bed, Rhine put his hand in his pocket and checked his recent gains. In the large pocket, the heavy, hard object was the reward for fulfilling the prince's wish. It was a small bottle of pink perfume. Watching this magical item, formed from the power of wishes, on the table, Rhine's thoughts raced. So, after fulfilling the wish of a child of destiny, the reward can actually be a physical object. How many secrets does my wish magician talent still hold that I don't understand? According to the knowledge that appeared in my mind after fulfilling the wish, anyone who drips a little of this perfume will not appear in their true form to others. Instead, they will appear as the person each observer loves most. Whether it's temperament, demeanor, or voice, everything will be corrected in the observer's mind to match their loved one. For example, if I put a drop on myself, in the eyes of the current Prince Eric, I would look like Ariel, and in the eyes of the king of the Sia Kingdom, I would probably look like the queen. No, the king's true love might not be the queen, their marriage was just for political reasons. So, this perfume also has the function of detecting who someone's true love is deep down. What if there's no one they love? Will the perfume be ineffective? It reminds me of a certain foundation's containment object. But it does also seem like an item from a fantasy fairy tale world. If the scenario is right, it will definitely have a wonderful use. What should I name it? This is my weakest point. Rhine told Aurora about the perfume's function and asked for her naming suggestions. Aurora didn't ask Rhine how he got this magical perfume. In her opinion, it was perfectly normal for a magician to always pull out strange items. After listening to Rhine's introduction, Aurora didn't directly name the magical perfume but exclaimed. What a miraculous magical item. It's almost as if it's the materialization of the twisted love and fate between Prince Eric, Princess Ariel, and the human girl who awakened the prince on shore. Rhine's heart stirred. Indeed, this reward for fulfilling the wish was like turning that twisted destiny into a physical object. Blurred memories, the wrong person loved, the wrong face recognized, the mockery of fate, a substitute for love. Rhine gazed at the small pink bottle, not much larger than his thumb, and murmured to himself. He recalled their convoluted love story. Prince Eric mistakenly believed the human girl who awakened him. Rhine knew she was coincidentally the princess of the Enda kingdom, was the only one who saved him, forgetting Ariel, yet he treated Ariel as a substitute for the human girl who awakened him. This perfume will be called mistaken love. Rhine said. Its name was thus decided. Leaning on the sofa, the little magician's thoughts drifted. It seems there's still much to research about the wish magician talent. The only thing I can be sure of is that the reward obtained might be related to the content of the wish, or it might be related to the wish maker themselves. So far, I've only fulfilled the wishes of 5 or 6 children of destiny, the sample size is still too small. Alas, it's a pity that Ariel's family members don't seem to count as children of destiny. While thinking, Rhine took out the memory bubble the sea hag had given them earlier. It contained many of the sea witch's memories of Maleficent. On the first day they obtained this memory bubble, Rhine and Aurora read it carefully. Although, theoretically speaking, this memory only contains information about Black Witch Maleficent herself and does not contain intelligence about that witch society. But it can also be vaguely inferred from the conversations between the sea hag and Maleficent, some partial intelligence about that witch society. Rhine thought. From various fragments of conversation, it could be inferred that the sea hag was a marginal member of the entire witch society, and also the one with the least presence. One very important piece of information was something Black Witch Maleficent once said to the sea hag. Remember, Sea Witch, you are always an unqualified member. We can kick you out whenever we want. According to the rules, to join us, you must first destroy or control a kingdom. Just like the dozens of kingdoms I have destroyed. You have never completed this initiation task, but by providing some useful magic potion recipes, you have barely made a few of us acknowledge your value, which is why your qualification has been retained until now. To join this witch society, one must first destroy or control a kingdom. Rhine deeply realized that, apart from the sea hag, every other member of this witch society must be extraordinary. Unfortunately, there are simply too many kingdoms, large and small, on the Western continent. And some members of this society may have very long lifespans, having joined the society hundreds or even thousands of years ago. This single clue alone makes it impossible to identify the specific members of the society. At this moment, Aurora gazed at the starry sky outside the window, worrying about her mermaid friend again. Oh, by the way, teacher, can you use magic to see the situation at the banquet with Prince Eric and Ariel? Aurora said, just thinking about them hosting the bandits from the Enda kingdom makes me feel strange. Of course. Rhine smiled, placed the crystal ball on the table, put Ariel's fish scales in front of the crystal ball, and began his divination. Soon, specks of starlight emerged within the crystal ball, like a vast universe. The starlight swirled, converging into specific colorful images. This was the Great Hall of the Sia Kingdom's palace. The king, Prince Eric, Mermaid Ariel, the Enda Kingdom's envoys, the dukes and ministers, one by one, their images appeared in the crystal ball's display. Inside the palace's grand hall, the king, queen, and Prince Eric were meeting with the envoys from Enda. The Enda delegation looked magnificent. Half of them were strong warriors in armor, their exquisite plate armor showcasing their might. The strangest individual in the entire delegation was an old witch. She looked like a typical witch. Old and ugly, with terrifyingly sharp eyes, she wore a classic witch's hat and robe, held a wooden staff in her hand, and occasionally mumbled strange words. People said she was the German emperor's advisor, the oldest, wisest, most authoritative, and most powerful member of the court's witch coven. Ariel felt quite scared the moment she saw her, which reminded her of the witch in the sea and the terrible legends associated with her. However, the sea hag is only slightly frightening in appearance and temperament, but she isn't actually a bad person. I hope this witch is the same, Ariel thought. It must have been hard for you, traveling across the ocean and enduring such a journey. Come, try the fine wine of our Saya kingdom. The king's face was wreathed in smiles, extremely enthusiastic, and he repeatedly ordered the attendants to pour overflowing fine wine into the golden cups of the Enda envoys. Prince Eric had almost never seen his father display such an expression, neither towards himself nor towards his mother. This made the prince feel quite uneasy, because it meant that his father placed extraordinary importance on befriending Enda. And his father still wanted him to marry the princess of Enda. What should I do? I belong to Ariel, and I absolutely cannot marry anyone else. Otherwise, Ariel will turn into sea foam. The prince thought anxiously. What are you thinking about, my child? Quickly, toast our friends who have come from afar, the king said to Prince Eric. While we're at it, it's time we formally discussed your marriage. Just as the prince was about to open his mouth to refute, the old witch of Enda tapped her staff on the marble floor. The crisp sound echoed through the hall, silencing all laughter and conversation. Everyone, especially the Enda envoys, fell silent. Because they knew better than anyone that nothing was more terrifying than that old witch getting angry. My Majesty, the monarch of Saya Kingdom, the old witch said sternly, on my way to this palace, I heard something not so good. What is it? The king asked nervously. People say that your Majesty invited the sage of Rose Kingdom, an annoying magician. And now he is inside this palace. The old witch rebuked angrily. This is simply too impolite. He was once an enemy of me and my country. Yet you entertained him, let him sleep in a luxurious room, lie on a soft bed, and cover himself with a silk-woven quilt. The king had already learned the identity of the divination contest winner from his subordinates. With a face full of smiles, he tried to explain. No need to be angry. This is just a coincidence. I've recently been recruiting famous diviners, and that magician of Rose Kingdom happened to respond to the recruitment. Drive him out. The old witch's tone was beyond doubt. Her voice was loud enough for all the royalty and nobles in the entire hall to hear. Oh, her temper is still so peculiar, unable to tolerate even the slightest offense. Perhaps witches who study magic and concoct potions tend to become like this, turning into deranged neurotics. And, for some reason, her temper has been getting worse day by day recently. The Enda warriors thought. The king was also a bit embarrassed. He waved and called his subordinates, intending to instruct them to ask Rhine to leave the palace and stay in a nearby inn or somewhere else. Ariel, who was nearby, felt very upset upon hearing the old witch's words. Not long ago, it was that little magician who had shown them the dawn of happiness. Rhine is such a good person, how can they treat him like this? The human world is truly complicated, Ariel couldn't help but think. Wait a moment, this is unfair. Prince Eric could no longer tolerate it and suddenly stood up, confronting the old witch amidst the horrified gazes of the royalty and nobles. Why? Why could a foreign witch, an envoy from a bandit nation, lecture them in the palace of Saya Kingdom and even drive away the magician who had shown him such great kindness? Eric could not accept it. After all, he was a hot-blooded young prince. That sage of Rose Kingdom, that learned magician, is our guest, the guest of Saya Kingdom. This is our country, our palace. You don't need to point fingers, old witch. The prince rebuked angrily. At this moment, he felt like a true hero, just like those heroes depicted in novels and picture books. Prince Eric, what did you say? The old witch was so angry she almost jumped up, striking the marble floor several times with her staff as if to shatter the ground. The other Enda envoys around her rushed over to restrain her. Fine, have it your way. The old witch sat back down, the anger on her face receding, replaced by a sinister smile. This is not a good choice, neither for you nor for your friend, Prince Eric. The Enda envoys' faces turned pale. They knew that when that old witch made such an expression, it meant someone was going to die. Prince Eric is quite loyal. Looking at the scene in the crystal ball, Aurora praised, I can foresee that no matter how great the obstacles or what the cost, he will find a way to be with Ariel. Speaking of this, Aurora sighed again. If, at Prince Eric's strong insistence, the king finally agrees for Prince Eric and Ariel to be together and live happily ever after in Saya Kingdom, that would indeed be quite good. The only pity is that if it's just like this, Ariel will still never be able to return to her kingdom in the sea, back to her family. Therefore, we must pursue a better ending, Rhine said. He watched the various scenes in the crystal ball, then pondered another matter. Why does that old witch have such great hostility towards me? Is there some hidden reason? Or is her temper just that strange? There are many witches with strange personalities in this world, but the most temperamental to the point of being neurotic in his memory was still Black Witch Maleficent. Be vigilant, I vaguely foresee that that witch might do something unfavorable to us. Perhaps even tonight. The silver-haired youth reminded Aurora. The arrival of the Enda delegation, a former enemy nation, put Rhine on alert. The stories scattered across this continent are not isolated, every nation is connected to each other. Just as Black Witch Maleficent and the Sea Hag belong to the same witch coven. Enemies once seen might reappear, perhaps plotting schemes they are unaware of. Under these intricate interconnections, the development of the story could entirely deviate from the original fairy tale. One cannot presume to know everything just by knowing the original plot. In the palace hall. Why get angry over such a small matter, my friends who have come from afar? The king said, trying to mediate. Coincidentally, within my palace, there is a singer with an exceptionally beautiful voice. I swear, it is absolutely the most melodious voice I have ever heard. You will surely like her, the king said with a smile, then looked at Ariel. Quick, perform a song for the distinguished guests of Enda. He had confidence in Ariel's singing. No matter how angry the foreign envoys were, after hearing her beautiful and enchanting voice, they would forget their previous rage. I don't want to sing for that old witch. Ariel thought. But then her thoughts took another turn. But Prince Eric is here too, I should perform a song for him. I haven't sung for him since he learned my true identity, since he truly proposed to me. Ariel lifted her skirt and slowly walked to the center of the hall. Her light and graceful steps drew endless praise from the princes, ministers, and Enda envoys. The mermaid princess began to sing. As the young girl sang, her gaze remained focused on Prince Eric's handsome face. Ariel sang more intently and earnestly than ever before. She wasn't singing any song she had sung before, but rather a song praising great love. Her voice was sometimes like the chirping of orioles and swallows, at times soaring like clouds. Sometimes it was like the nascent sun rising above the sea, brilliant and bright. At other times, it was as tumultuous as a surging tide, with rising and falling waves, yet at other times, it was like the turbulent undercurrents of the sea, accumulating power beneath the calm, pregnant with infinite possibilities. In the garden at the bottom of the sea, Ariel had heard her sisters sing this song. What a beautiful song! I've never heard such a beautiful song, the mermaid princess said. Sisters, I want to learn to sing, I want to learn this song. The great-grandmother, wearing a silver crown, smiled. She stroked Ariel's head and said to the mermaid. Ariel, do you want to learn to sing? That's wonderful, your voice is so good, you will become the most excellent singer in the entire ocean. We mermaids do not pursue eternal things. In contrast, brief, momentary bursts of beauty are far more important. Those humans in the upper world like to compile their stories into books, hire people to immortalize their images in sculptures and paintings, and engrave history on stones so that they can be passed down. Even after death, they bury themselves in tombs and erect gravestones to avoid being forgotten. In their view, if something does not become eternal, it is meaningless. But we are different. In the world of the sea, no sculpture can remain as good as new after thousands of years of seawater corrosion. When our 300 years of life are over, we will turn into sea foam, dispersed by a single wave, leaving no grave, no trace of our existence. But what does that matter? Were our beautiful moments false? Songs are such fleeting yet brilliant things. Perhaps this is also why we mermaids love to sing but do not compose sheet music. Unlike paintings and sculptures, when your song ends, there is no trace left, no different from sea foam, only the lingering echoes in the listener's heart. The great-grandmother, holding the seemingly bewildered Ariel, looked at the five sisters holding hands and singing, and smiled. My little princess. As for this song, it is a song about love. You are still young, perhaps you don't yet know what love is, but you will understand one day. My princess, when you have a beloved in the future, sing this song to him. The great-grandmother's face in Ariel's sea memories faded, gradually settling into the handsome face of Prince Eric before her. Ariel sang even harder. As if she wanted to pour out all her heart, all her thoughts, all her emotions. Her high notes made the entire palace tremble slightly. The fine wine in the glass rippled, the magnificent crystal chandeliers swayed, and dust fell from the ceiling. Every prince, minister, and envoy was mesmerized. The most captivated was undoubtedly Prince Eric himself. He didn't understand the mermaid's song, but for some reason, he instantly knew it was a song sung for him. The only one not immersed in the song was the old witch from the Enda delegation. How strange, how strange. This doesn't sound like a human voice at all, she thought. It's exactly like the perfect melodies only those mermaids from the sea could sing. The old witch noticed that throughout the performance, Ariel's gaze was focused on Prince Eric. And the prince responded with an equally affectionate gaze. This is not good. I hope it's not what I think it is, the old witch thought. The song ended, and after a wave of applause, Ariel, still wanting more, said, I can also dance, I'll perform a dance for everyone. The king was stunned. He had never known that the girl the prince brought back could dance. Ariel began to dance again, raising her beautiful, fair hands and dancing on her tiptoes. No one had ever danced like this. Just as the sea hag had once promised, Ariel's legs, transformed from her beautiful mermaid tail, retained the graceful fluidity of swimming in the sea even when dancing, making her movements more agile than any human dancer. Ariel danced down from the stage, like a butterfly flitting among flowers or a fish darting through ocean currents, twirling before each guest, until she reached the prince. She stayed there the longest, and then reluctantly danced back. Seeing the girl twirl gracefully away from him, the prince couldn't help but reach out his hand, as if to keep her. He was smiling, a radiant smile. Upon seeing this, the old witch knew her suspicions had come true and immediately grew anxious. What terrible news! There must be special feelings between Prince Eric and that girl. This absolutely cannot happen. Prince Eric must marry our empire's little princess. I had long heard that Prince Eric was a rebellious child, never satisfied with his father's arrangements. So, to facilitate this marriage and achieve the ultimate goal, I had already secretly arranged everything. I instructed the little princess to go to the temple in the forest to study, giving her a chance to meet Prince Eric ahead of time in fate, precisely to ensure that the moment Prince Eric first saw the little princess, he would fall in love with her and firmly believe it was fate's arrangement. If the prince does not marry our empire's little princess, the subsequent plans cannot be executed, my arrangements will be ruined, and my future will be ruined. Ariel's song and dance concluded. The princes, ministers, and Enda envoys praised her endlessly, applauding continuously. Some guests praised it as the most beautiful song they had ever heard and the most beautiful dance they had ever seen in their lives. They expressed envy that the Rose Kingdom's court had such a dancer. The king lowered his voice and said to the prince, Eric, my child, I never imagined that the amnesiac girl you brought back would not only sing well but also dance so wonderfully. Earlier, when Ariel had a sudden whim to dance, he was terrified, worried that Ariel's dancing would be far inferior to her extraordinary singing. Her subsequent performance truly surprised him. My father. That girl has a name, she's called Ariel. That magician from the Rose Kingdom has already divined her background, and Ariel has also recalled her past, the prince said, seizing the opportunity. But he stopped halfway through. How should I describe Ariel's background to my father? Should I just say that the girl is a mermaid from the deep sea? My father would treat her as a monster. I must come up with a suitable reason, the prince thought. At the same time, the old witch said to the king, My king, the song and dance performance is over, let's discuss more important matters. Let's talk about the alliance between our two nations, and His Royal Highness Prince Eric's marriage. The prince felt a tightening in his chest, as if his heart had been fiercely squeezed. The king and the Enda envoys began to discuss the alliance. The king said he was so looking forward to the alliance between the Rose Kingdom and Enda. When the two nations signed the agreement, the Rose Kingdom's ships would have unimpeded passage at sea, and their kingdom could become the maritime hub for Western continent trade, with spices from the Middle East and silk and porcelain from the Far East Empire all passing through them. They also discussed many other things. Prince Eric, you will marry our empire's youngest princess, the old witch said. She is so beautiful, I guarantee you will fall in love with her the moment you see her. No, I will not fall in love with anyone else. Not even the woman who once awakened me on shore. My body, mind, and soul already belong to Ariel, the prince thought. Imagine, if I were to walk down the aisle with someone else, on the first dawn of our marriage, when I awaken in the morning and see the sunrise refracting golden light on the ocean, and the foam churning among the waves, I would know that it is Ariel, who has melted away. I would surely weep bitterly. Prince Eric, why don't you communicate by letter now? The old witch suggested again. Now, send a letter to our little princess to express your love, how about it? Although you haven't met yet, as a witch, I often see revelations of fate. I can predict that you will absolutely fall completely in love with the little princess the moment you see her. The old witch emphasized again. She was confident about this, because that fate was arranged by her. The king also echoed. Yes, my child, quickly send a letter to that beautiful little princess. Prince Eric realized. He had to speak his mind. He looked at the king, staring into his father's equally dark pupils, and finally made up his mind, speaking earnestly, word by word. My father, I am very sorry, I cannot marry that little princess from Enda. Because, my heart is already taken. Prince Eric continued, the alliance between our two nations can still proceed as planned, and I am incredibly happy that my country can forge an alliance with Enda. However, my marriage does not necessarily have to be tied to this. Silence fell over the court hall. Neither the dukes and ministers nor the king and queen dared to speak first. Ariel, below the dais, covered her mouth and held her breath. She felt her eyes welling up, hot liquid swirling within them. The old witch's face immediately darkened. The king's eyes were filled with astonishment. He probably could guess who the prince loved, there were too many signs. But before Prince Eric said it himself, he had believed that Prince Eric's feelings for the girl he had found were merely a fleeting infatuation of a teenager, a restless energy that would gradually fade with time, and would not affect the overall marriage arrangement. Gods. It seems my king completely disagrees with my idea, I can tell from his expression. Why is this so? Why must I marry the princess of a neighboring country? Isn't Ariel also a princess? That's right, Ariel comes from a kingdom beneath the sea, and our kingdom of Shia is adjacent to that sea. Ariel is precisely a princess from a neighboring country. But how should I explain this to my king? The prince complained about the unfairness in his heart. He vaguely sensed what the barrier was that prevented him and the mermaid princess from being together. He truly saw a wall standing before him. He wanted to break that wall, as the current prince and future king. We'll discuss this after the banquet ends, the king said in a low voice. Afterward, neither the king nor the Enda envoys implicitly brought up the matter of the marriage alliance again. They turned to discuss other matters. The prince knew this didn't mean his king agreed with his idea. However, his king's gentleness was somewhat unexpected to Prince Eric. After his impulsive outburst, his king surprisingly didn't fly into a rage over his impropriety. Did this mean there was still a chance? The banquet for the foreign delegation ended. The crimson lights extinguished, the sounds of singing and dancing gradually faded and ceased, and the attendants collected the wine glasses that still held the scent of wine. Both parties dispersed one after another. The Enda delegation would remain in the kingdom of Shia for a few more days. The old witch and the other envoys returned to the luxurious rooms arranged by the king. Terrible, it's truly terrible. Prince Eric actually fell in love with that girl with a voice that truly doesn't belong to a human, and he even said it in public, rejecting our arrangements. The old witch paced back and forth in the room, muttering to herself. The other envoys shivered and hid to the side, no one daring to disturb her. After waiting for a long while, one envoy finally mustered the courage to report. I've inquired about the singer. The maids all say that Prince Eric found this girl by the sea. He treats her exceptionally well because she strongly resembles the woman who saved him during a shipwreck. If that's the case, then it's wonderful. The old witch quietly breathed a sigh of relief, her eyes showing joy. This means she's just a substitute. Once Prince Eric truly sees our little princess, he'll immediately change his mind. The old witch then became puzzled. This is truly strange, that singer doesn't look like the little princess at all. Perhaps Prince Eric's memory is mistaken. Clearly, she knew very well who had saved Prince Eric during that shipwreck. Oh, by the way, have you found out? Which guest room is the sorcerer from the Rose Kingdom staying in? The old witch asked again. Another envoy tremblingly informed the old witch of the information. He already anticipated what would happen tonight. All right, you may leave. Do not disturb me again tonight. The old witch waved her hand, dismissing her subordinates. Seeing that no one else was in the room, she took out a mirror, hung it on the wall, and began to chant a spell. On the dark mirror surface, ripples spread out in circles, revealing the face of a man. The man had stubble, looking strong, masculine, and aggressive. He was the monarch of Enda. My king, I report to you what I witnessed today. So, the old witch recounted everything she had seen and heard at the banquet today. She spoke of Prince Eric and Ariel exchanging glances during the song and dance, and of the prince's refusal of his king's arrangements in court. After listening, the monarch of Enda nodded gently, deep in thought. He then asked, "Oh, Prince Eric has someone in his heart and rejected his father's arrangements. He is indeed as rebellious and individualistic as rumored. Can the rest of the plan still proceed smoothly?" His voice was full of authority. "Of course, Your Majesty. I've found out that Prince Eric merely regards that girl as a substitute. The one he truly loves is the woman who saved him after the shipwreck on that stormy night, that is, Her Royal Highness the 7th Princess, Your Majesty's youngest and most beautiful daughter." The old witch grinned. "Initially, I glimpsed a turning point in fate and instructed Her Royal Highness to go to the temple in the forest to cultivate royal virtues. Because I had long foreseen, as long as the princess went there, at some point in the future, she would be able to meet the prince of the kingdom of Xia in advance, encountering him in an incredibly romantic way. Her Royal Highness the little princess is still unaware of this. In her letters, she mentioned saving a handsome young man washed ashore by the waves, but she didn't know that it was precisely the prince of the kingdom of Xia. When they meet, both will believe it is destiny's arrangement. As far as I know, Prince Eric is a young man who loves romantic stories, values emotions, and is least willing to let others down. When he sees the woman he has longed for, whose image has haunted his dreams, appear before him, and she happens to be the foreign princess he is engaged to, he will absolutely be unable to refuse this love. Prince Eric will surely feel that it's as beautiful as a dream. No matter how rebellious he was in the past, or how much he disliked his king's decisions, at this moment, he will eagerly want to marry Her Royal Highness the princess. Ha ha ha, what a beautiful moment. However much he loves that girl with the beautiful voice and graceful dance now, he will love our little princess just as much. No, he will pour 10 times more love into her. Because that girl is merely a substitute for Her Royal Highness the princess." The old witch's grin widened even further, her features contorting, her smile becoming increasingly ugly. "Afterward, I will follow the plan and give Her Royal Highness a mind-controlling fragrance, telling her to sprinkle it on herself daily, claiming it can charm any man. And indeed, it can. That magical scent will warp the minds of any male over a long period. This soul-corroding scent is silent, subtle, and will go unnoticed by anyone. As long as Her Royal Highness the Princess and Prince Eric marry, in less than half a year, Prince Eric, who spends every day with Her Royal Highness, will be enchanted by my magic and become a puppet completely under my control. Prince Eric is the future monarch of the kingdom of Xia. The moment he ascends the throne in place of his father, the kingdom of Xia will be under our control. Controlling the kingdom of Xia, which is a maritime transportation hub, will be a crucial step in Your Majesty's grand territorial ambitions. In the future, the entire Western continent, and even the entire continent, will submit to Your Majesty." In the mirror, the majestic monarch of Enda nodded gently and said briefly, "You have done well." Then the image in the mirror slowly disappeared, returning to darkness. The old witch stared at the now dark and unlit mirror, her formerly fawning expression gone, her eyes suddenly becoming sharper. She once again chanted an obscure spell, and ripples spread out in circles. The mirror magic connected to a distant place, and an image reappeared in the mirror. This time, a woman appeared in the mirror. She was the other person the old witch was looking for. She was tall, clad in a dark purple robe, possessing a dark beauty and cold elegance. Her face was as cold as ice, yet seemed to contain an unimaginable madness. Black Witch Maleficent. The culprit who once cursed the Rose Kingdom. I've been suffering from severe insomnia these past few days, I need to find a solution. As long as I complete my plan and successfully turn Prince Eric, the Crown Prince of Xia Kingdom, into my puppet, I can join you and replace that deep sea witch to become a member of the Witch Society, right? The old witch asked with a smile. This means that my complete control over Xia Kingdom is only a matter of time. Yes, Black Witch Maleficent said, her emotions calm and her demeanor dark and cold. To destroy or control a kingdom with wisdom and magic, proving one's outstanding ability and cruel nature. This was the condition for joining the witch society and becoming a formal member. Not long after becoming the court's magic consultant, the old witch suggested to the emperor of Enda. Spread the truth of the Black Witch's curse throughout the Rose Kingdom, throw this prosperous and rich neighboring country into chaos, and then attack their country during the turmoil. When the war reached its final stage, she would personally strike the last blow to the heart of this dying kingdom. Once the Rose Kingdom was destroyed, her initiation task would also be completed. Unfortunately, a formidable commander suddenly appeared in the kingdom. She led the army, united with Sage Rhine of Rose Kingdom and the 12 witches, and repelled the invaders' powerful assault. Fortunately, the old witch had another backup plan, which was the current scheme, using the ignorant little princess against Prince Eric. The old witch asked Maleficent in the magic mirror again. When I join the witch society, what will happen to that deep sea witch you mentioned? After she's kicked out. Although she asked this verbally, she had already guessed the answer in her heart, but she wanted to confirm it again. She will die, as if she never existed in this world. It's impossible to let someone who knows so many of our secrets continue to live, Maleficent said coldly. The Black Witch's tone was calm, as if she were talking about the most ordinary thing. That sea hag was just a placeholder, an informal member who never even qualified for entry, a non-human monster living in the deep sea. If not for one of my sisters being interested in several unique deep-sea magic potion formulas, she wouldn't even have been qualified to see us. Now, she has no value at all. Black Witch Maleficent stroked her sharp nails, revealing a look of disdain. Please look forward to it. It won't be long before my plan is complete. The old witch smiled extraordinarily happily. She waved her hand, ending the magical communication, and the surface of the magic mirror returned to darkness. Ha ha ha, once Prince Eric truly meets the beautiful little princess of Enda, once they walk down the aisle, and once that prince's soul is unknowingly corroded by the strange, magical fragrance and he becomes my puppet, I will have succeeded. It won't be long before I can join the witch society and become one of the most dangerous witches on this continent. I will master the most secret and ancient black magic and magic potion formulas, possess a lifespan as long as a powerful empire, and be able to kill anyone I dislike at will, even if he is a prince, princess, king, or any other important figure who thinks they are extraordinary in the mundane world. After her excitement, the old witch's mood gradually calmed as she recalled everything that had happened today. Oh, that sage of Rose Kingdom really displeased me. If it weren't for him and the Valkyrie who appeared out of nowhere, how could the plan to destroy the Rose Kingdom have failed back then? I do not allow any displeasing person to live until the next dawn. The old witch's mouth opened wide, and her body trembled as she laughed maniacally. She threw her wooden staff to the ground. With a thud, the staff transformed into an emerald green venomous snake. This was a magical staff. This staff embodied the old witch's efforts for many years. She spent 10 years finding a branch suitable for making this magical staff, and then another 10 years polishing the branch every month on the night of the eclipse, imbuing it with terrifying curses, before finally creating it. The venomous snake transformed from this staff was incredibly poisonous. Even an elephant would die from a single bite. Most terrifyingly, most ordinary magic was ineffective against this venomous snake. Most of a magician's strange spells, upon touching the scales of this emerald green snake, either significantly weakened or completely dissipated. Even if this venomous snake was killed, it would release a large cloud of fatal green poisonous mist, causing everyone who eliminated it to die unnatural deaths. Just an unprotected magician. My precious venomous snake is his perfect counter. Heh, a magician without strong guards and extraordinary warriors to protect him is always so fragile. The old witch chuckled inwardly. She called out to the emerald green little snake. Go, my darling. Go to the room I mentioned and bite that silver-haired little magician and his friend. While they are still asleep, bite them fiercely on their slender, fragile necks, inject the most venom, and let those annoying fellows die tragically in their sleep. Oh, and after that, never forget to use your venom to melt their bodies and clothes, making them look as if they vanished into thin air. The next morning, the palace maids will find the empty room and only be perplexed, thinking that the annoying magician has already left early. The emerald green venomous snake received its command, slipped out through the door crack, and slithered in the shadows of the palace corridor. The snake's movements were incredibly swift, specializing in stealth and assassination, moving so fast it was almost invisible, always perfectly passing through the blind spots and dead zones of the guard's vision. Over many years, this slender, emerald-green venomous snake had helped the old witch kill countless people she disliked, never failing once, and was already highly experienced. Soon, the venomous snake slipped into the luxurious guest room where Rhine and Aurora were sleeping. Strangely, contrary to the information provided by its master's command, of the two beds in the room, only one seemed to have someone sleeping in it, the other was empty. The venomous snake didn't concern itself with that. If there was only one target, then it would kill that one target. The slender venomous snake darted out like an arrow from a bowstring, like an emerald-green arrow piercing the air. It bit fiercely into the pale, slender neck of the child on the bed. Crunch! The venomous snake's teeth broke. The emerald-green little snake fell straight to the floor, writhing in pain, feeling as if it had bitten not soft skin but something harder than steel. Aurora, who had anticipated this, quickly threw off her covers and rolled out of bed. The valiant golden-haired girl landed steadily on one bare foot, simultaneously reaching out her hand to the ground with incredible speed and seizing the venomous snake. The slender, emerald-green viper struggled desperately. It tried to break free through its agile movements and the astonishing strength bestowed by magic. Although seemingly small, the viper's strength was no less than that of a bull. Not to mention its supernatural agility, whose movements even a keen hunter couldn't track with their eyes. However, even with such strength and dexterity, the girl's hand remained motionless, gripping the viper tightly, making it impossible for it to escape. Teacher's premonition was indeed correct. Danger has arrived. That old witch has indeed made a move against us. Aurora's right hand suddenly tightened, crushing the viper to death. The emerald-green scales, capable of resisting various magic spells, were utterly useless against such an extraordinary warrior. Pop! The viper exploded in a cloud of emerald-green mist, and terrifying poisonous fog spread, churning and rolling, pervasive with lethality. This was the magical viper's final trump card, transforming into a deadly mist at the moment of death to kill its enemies. The viper's corpse fell to the ground, turning into a broken magic staff. As expected of that old witch's tricks, one after another, truly troublesome. Aurora quickly retreated several steps. But a small amount of green mist still touched the girl's palm, corroding her fair hand. The witch's blessing ensured that man-made and natural weapons could not harm Aurora, and the same applied to natural or magical flames. But besides swords, claws, fangs, and scorching flames, there were many other dangers in the world that the blessing did not protect against. Aurora, let's leave this room first. The moment the blonde girl rapidly retreated several steps, Rhine's figure swiftly materialized behind her, grabbing Aurora's shoulder, and then the two figures rapidly vanished. Teleportation. Both appeared simultaneously in the adjacent empty room. It turned out that Rhine had long anticipated the old witch's eccentric nature and that she might cause them trouble tonight, so he had remained vigilant, divining the situation for the next few hours in advance. Divination and prophecy were not omnipotent, often providing only vague fragments. But they were still useful at this time. Just now, facing the incoming danger, Rhine himself directly teleported to the adjacent empty room, observing the situation in the original room with magic, ready to act at any time to resolve the predicament or catch the enemy off guard. The invulnerable Aurora was responsible for staying in the room and confronting the enemy head-on. Extraordinary warriors and mages each had their division of labor. How are you, Aurora? Are you all right? In the empty room, Rhine looked with great concern at Aurora's right palm, which had been corroded to expose raw flesh. It's nothing, it doesn't hurt much. The blonde girl grinned, her uninjured left hand clenching tightly into a fist, cold sweat beading on her forehead, and she breathed heavily, trying to appear as if she wasn't in pain. Oh, you child, Rhine sighed. The youth took out the freshly refined potion powder from his pocket, carefully sprinkled it on the girl's hand, and then cast a healing spell, covering Aurora's right hand with pure white light. After integrating the sea hag's alchemy and his already mastered healing magic, Rhine was confident that no matter if someone was poisoned, ill, or fatally wounded, as long as they didn't die on the spot, he could save them. In just a moment, Rhine dispelled the poison and healed Aurora's injury. Now the girl's palm looked no different from before. Next, we need to clear the poisonous mist from the room. Relying on the summoned wind elemental spirit and the detoxifying herbal powder, in a short while, Rhine had dispelled all the emerald green mist in the room. They returned to the room. Although her injury healed within a minute, Aurora still felt a bit indignant recalling the attack just now. It must have been that old witch, right? She really wants to kill us. I really want to give that old witch a taste of her own medicine. Mid-sentence, Aurora's face showed sadness again. Unfortunately, I don't know which room she lives in. The Enda delegation seems to be scattered across several different rooms. And perhaps, like Black Witch Maleficent, she can evade divination and scrying targeting her to some extent. Rhine smiled. He took out the tinderbox and lightly rubbed it. With a whoosh, the door was blown open by a cold wind, and a large dog with eyes the size of teacups appeared at the doorway. Rhine placed the broken magic staff in front of the large dog's nose, letting the dog sniff and sniff. Find the owner of this staff. The youth gave the dog its command. The dogs summoned by the tinderbox were truly magical. Within a certain range, these dogs could always find the target their master was hunting, whether it was money or a specific person. The dog obediently barked twice, then leapt out the window and ran through the garden beside the palace. The dog was as agile as described in the original fairy tale. It moved stealthily in the shadows, deftly avoiding all eyes that might notice it, its agility completely mismatched with its large size. In the original, tinderbox story, the three dogs could sneak into the heavily guarded and protected royal palace without anyone noticing, snatching the princess without being discovered by the guards. Rhine didn't have invisibility magic, so he didn't follow directly behind the dog. Instead, he took out a crystal ball to observe the dog's direction of movement and find the room where the old witch resided. The old witch was still alone in her room, waiting for her precious little viper to return and report the good news. Suddenly, a cold wind blew, and the room's window opened. A large, eerie dog had appeared before the old witch at some unknown point. The dog's eyes were as big as teacups. What's going on? Why isn't it my precious viper that's returned? But such a strange dog. The old witch was stunned and immediately guessed the reason. The dog lunged at the old witch, about to knock her down, but the old witch recited a spell even faster. Bang! In a cloud of black mist, the dog turned into an ugly toad. Transfiguration curse. Ha ha ha, this kind of monster wants to deal with me. For the next 7 days, you'll be this ugly. The old witch burst into laughter. Then the witch stopped laughing. Her eyes bulged. Because a rope, while she was focused on dealing with the dog, had quietly tightened around her neck, hanging her in the air. The old witch, with her neck constricted and suspended in midair, kicked her legs and struggled ceaselessly. She tried to cast a self-saving spell or call for the strong warriors of Enda in other rooms for help. But because her vocal cords and trachea were constricted, all these attempts failed. Just as she had said 10 minutes ago, a magician without guard protection was indeed very vulnerable. This was absolutely true. After several continuous kicks, the old witch stopped struggling and was completely hanged to death. Rhine and Aurora's figures emerged behind her. As expected of teacher, your method of dealing with witches is simple and effective. Preventing a witch from casting a spell is truly a useful killing move, Aurora praised her teacher's wisdom. Modern, and even not so modern, stories are all written this way, Rhine thought. Aurora stared intently at the old witch, who was hanging dead in the air by a living rope, confirming that the corpse had no life left, and asked, "Is she dead? Was it that simple?" Aurora had heard before that this was the most powerful witch in Enda, the most formidable magic master in the court of a powerful empire. She wouldn't die so easily, would she? She and her teacher still had many tricks they hadn't used yet. According to my supernatural premonition, no, Rhine said. In the world of magic, life takes many different and wonderful forms, it isn't necessarily housed in the physical body. Before Aurora could understand the meaning of her teacher's words, she saw the corpse hanging in the air collapse into a dull yellow powder. The dust scattered in the air, then dissipated in the cold night wind, leaving no trace of its existence. For some reason, Aurora suddenly thought of something at this moment. If Ariel ultimately failed to gain an immortal soul, on the dawn of the first day of Prince Eric's marriage to the Princess of Enda, the poor mermaid princess would melt in a similar manner to what just happened. However, Ariel would not turn into choking dust, but rather into more beautiful foam on the waves. But the similarity is that when a sea breeze blows and the waves crash, the foam on the wave crests dissipates, leaving no trace. Thinking of this, Aurora felt a touch of sadness, and her resolve to facilitate their marriage grew even stronger. Aurora looked at the scattered dust and asked her teacher. What happened? Where did that old witch go? Rhine explained. This bad witch's physical body was indeed killed. But an ancient dark magic saved her. She used necromancy to remove her own heart, storing her vitality and soul elsewhere, probably in distant Enda. When her physical body is killed, she will revive at the location of her heart, rebuilding a brand new body. Similar necromancy has appeared in many stories. Of course, this forbidden witchcraft, which tramples on flesh and soul, and such a resurrection, must come at a price. Rhine sighed again. A magician or witch lacking protection might be very vulnerable, perhaps a sharp blade could pierce their heart. But if they are true masters, they might have many strange ways to preserve their lives. Aurora's expression became much more solemn. They still had to deal with an even more troublesome witch in the future. Immediately, the girl scanned the now empty room, where only a little dull yellow dust remained on the floor, and a smile of revenge appeared on her face. Haha, I wonder what kind of expressions the other members of the Enda delegation will have tomorrow morning when they discover that their all-powerful witch has been killed. Just thinking about it makes me excited. Let's go. There's no need to stay here. Rhine gently patted Aurora's shoulder. That old witch is probably already plotting in Enda how to make the prince leave Ariel. We must also act in sync and not relax. It's time to contact the Sea King's side. I just saw a very important future. As long as the Sea King's side can act smoothly, the relationship between the Sea Kingdom and the Land Kingdom will be rewritten. Tonight, we'll go to the Sea King's palace again. The next moment, the two children's figures rapidly faded and disappeared, as if they had never been there. At the same time, in a hidden secret room in the Enda Palace. The floor had not been cleaned for years, dense spider webs covered it, and dust had settled everywhere. Suddenly, the dust on the ground swirled up, gathering into a human shape, and after a twist, transformed into the appearance of the old witch. It hurts so much, I'm finally alive again. The old witch was furious, recalling how she had just been killed. This forbidden witchcraft came at a price. Each resurrection required an unimaginable and painful cost. Every time she resurrected, after a period of time, a great misfortune would befall her. And until this misfortune ended, she could not resurrect again. I won't let you go, the magician of Rose Kingdom, Rhine. The old witch roared in anger. I know that Black Witch Maleficent doesn't consider you a worthy opponent at all, but I am different. Once I join the Witch Society and learn the most powerful and cruel dark magic, I will definitely extract your soul from your body and torture you with every cruel punishment imaginable. I will make you suffer eternal pain. She gnashed her few remaining teeth, almost cracking them. After her anger subsided, the old witch noticed something strange. How did that magician kill my precious venomous snake? His spell shouldn't have had any effect on my darling. The old witch slowly closed her eyes, feeling the blurred memory of her emerald snake's death through a mysterious connection. It seemed to have been crushed violently in some immense hand. Was he protected by a powerful warrior? Who could it be? The Valkyrie who briefly appeared on the battlefield of Rose Kingdom before? Or someone else? The old witch pondered, then pulled out a mirror and once again contacted Black Witch Maleficent. Since they had a common enemy, perhaps this legendary Black Witch could help her. If that powerful Black Witch was willing to act, who couldn't be killed? What now? Didn't you just seek me out yesterday? I told you, once you achieve your goal, I will allow you to join us. Black Witch Maleficent's face appeared in the mirror, looking very impatient. I was just discussing with my sisters what would be the most spectacular and interesting way to kill the sea hag whom we are about to kick out of the Witch Society. Don't disturb our entertainment. If you bother me again with useless talk, I'll kill you first. Black Witch Maleficent stroked the pet raven on her shoulder, looking very displeased. Respected Maleficent, the old witch said, I wanted to remind you something about the magician of Rose Kingdom and their warrior. They are our common enemies. I think they must also be thinking of finding you and killing you to lift the kingdom's curse. What did you say? Maleficent exploded in anger. It's just an ordinary kingdom, a tiny magician, one of countless on the continent. They can kill me. I don't care what they think. Wait a moment, I think we can, the old witch quickly said, but before she could finish, the image in the dark mirror disappeared. The next morning, the Enda envoys behaved unexpectedly calmly, at least, they appeared to. They did not loudly publicize the old witch being attacked and killed. They simply met with the king as usual, did everything a diplomatic mission should do, and claimed that the wise court witch was unwell and resting in her room. Those envoys from the bandit kingdom must be frantic. They know in their hearts that the old witch was killed after failing to kill someone else, but they can only accept their bad luck. Otherwise, they lack strength and are in the wrong. Aurora couldn't help but laugh after learning about the situation with the Enda delegation. Undoubtedly, her counterattack against the old witch last night brought her immense joy, just like a 10-year-old girl finding her favorite doll. For some unknown reason, Aurora vaguely felt that the old witch had some similarities to Black Witch Maleficent, whom she had never actually met but who had cursed her. Was it because they both wielded insidious and cruel magic? Meanwhile, Rhine had already contacted the Sea King of the Sea Country, instructing him and his soldiers to prepare for an important upcoming mission. He was currently studying the magic wand on the table, which had broken into 2 pieces. This was the wand the old witch had left behind last night, the one that had transformed into a jade-green venomous snake. Now, with the death of the venomous snake, the wand was damaged and temporarily devoid of magical power. However, with a simple divination, Rhine was still able to determine the wand's original function. It can transform into a deadly venomous snake, ignoring most spells. Against powerful spellcasters, it's definitely a very useful item. I wonder if there's a possibility of repairing it. Rhine thought. In Western and Eastern fairy tales, myths, epic stories, and classical fantasy novels, powerful magical artifacts often possess strength exceeding that of their creators. This is not surprising. If a magical item cannot do something its creator cannot do in some aspect, then why create it? Undoubtedly, in this fantastical continent, for a truly excellent magician, practical magical tools are essential. The Tinderbox's dogs have already proven their wondrous utility several times. He and Aurora currently only have 1 Tinderbox, which is still a bit too few magical items. After confirming that the Enda delegation would not bother them for the time being, Aurora urged again. Teacher, let's check on Ariel or Prince Eric again. The king seems completely unwilling to let Prince Eric and Ariel marry, which is truly terrible. Rhine placed the crystal ball on the table and then placed a button belonging to Prince Eric in front of it as a medium. He had deliberately touched the prince's button earlier, so he could summon it at any time. Just as the little magician began to chant the spell, he heard a polite knock at the guest room door. The little magician snapped his fingers. The doorknob turned by itself, and the door opened automatically. It was none other than Prince Eric and Ariel who walked in. Both looked very disheartened. What's wrong, Prince Eric? Rhine asked. Did His Majesty not agree to your marriage with Ariel? Exactly. My king told me that for royalty, a marriage based on love is a luxury. The person I marry must be that little princess from Enda. Prince Eric's face was ashen, like a dead man's. The only time Ariel had seen this handsome young man's face so pale was on that stormy night when she saved him. Why is this happening? I don't object to an alliance between the 2 countries at all, but why should sacred marriage be tied to dirty politics? Why must I swear an eternal vow to someone I don't know? I cannot accept Ariel's heart breaking and turning into sea foam. Prince Eric spoke a lot in one breath, as if he couldn't pour out all the accumulated emotions in his heart without saying everything. Did you tell your king about Ariel's background, as I described it? That's why your king initially recruited a diviner, wasn't it? Rhine asked. Last night, he had already received his divination reward. It was a considerable amount of gold and silver coins. Now that the Enda delegation has arrived, my king is busy dealing with them and is temporarily not concerned with this matter. I vaguely hinted that Ariel is also a foreign princess, but my king thought I was joking. Prince Eric sighed in disappointment. Ariel also sighed along with him. She was regretting her impulsiveness and rashness. I think it's time for me to give up. I really can't be with the prince. Why did I fall in love with a young prince of all people? She thought. So, after much thought, I had no choice but to make a decision, Prince Eric said. Ariel awaited the prince to speak his cruel decision. Let's elope, Ariel. The prince said. What? Ariel was stunned. Are you kidding? You are the crown prince of the kingdom of Shia. I also have a younger brother who is currently traveling abroad. He can replace me as the future king of the kingdom. Prince Eric said resolutely, I am not a politician at all. If I ascend the throne, I would not be an excellent king. As Prince Eric said this, Aurora, who had been silently listening nearby, felt a stir in her heart. She was also the future king of a certain kingdom. What is a politician? Aurora asked. She wasn't ignorant of the definition, she just wanted to see what Prince Eric would say. They are people who know how to ruthlessly sacrifice a certain group of people for a greater goal. They sacrifice the minority for the benefit of the majority, they sacrifice the unimportant for the important, and they don't experience emotional fluctuations because of it. Prince Eric said, I respect them, and I know the world cannot do without them, but I don't want to be one of them. Aurora lowered her head, lost in thought, and said nothing more. At this moment, Ariel grasped the prince's hand, staring intently into his dark eyes. No, my Eric, my prince. I cannot just elope with you like this. To indulge my selfish desires, to abduct a young man who could have been king and enjoyed the service of an entire kingdom, and run off to an unknown temple to swear an eternal vow. What would your king think? If you suddenly disappeared one morning, he would surely be very worried about you. At this point, Ariel suddenly froze. She thought of her family, of the palace in the sea and her sister's gardens, of her 5 sisters holding hands and singing on the surface of the sea, of the Sea King holding a trident and sitting on his crown, and of her great-grandmother wearing a silver crown and standing above the deep-sea palace. She might never be able to return to them. Even if she successfully married the prince in the end, it would be the same, they would only be able to stay in the human land kingdom forever. Once, before coming ashore, Ariel longed for human life. But now, she only appreciated what she had lost. Both the land world and the sea world had their own beautiful places. Why couldn't she have both? Ariel thought greedily. Prince Eric smiled. He knew what Ariel was thinking just by looking into her blue eyes. It doesn't matter, my Ariel. Isn't this what you once did for me? You abandoned everything in the sea to come to this land. You had to leave your sisters and your king, leave the beautiful palace beneath the deep blue sea. And what I am about to do, how is it any different from what you once did? Ariel retorted. We are not the same, my prince. I am a mermaid from the sea, born without an immortal soul, and will eventually turn into unknown foam on the sea. And you are a noble human. You don't need me to gain soul completeness, but I desperately need you. Saying this, Ariel inwardly condemned her selfishness. I might cause Eric to abandon everything for me just to gain an immortal soul. This absolutely won't do. She then said to the prince. Besides, where could we elope to? The king would find us within a day of us leaving the palace. At the same time, Aurora, seeing Ariel and Prince Eric talking back and forth, felt incredibly emotional but also slightly surprised. Since they decided to elope, why did Prince Eric come to see teacher? Just to tell a newly acquainted magician about their plan to elope. He didn't need to say all this in front of us. Does Prince Eric have some other plan that requires teacher's help? Prince Eric smiled. He raised the mermaid princess's hand high, holding it before himself. So, let's elope to the sea. That way, wouldn't you be able to return to your sisters and Sea King's palace? Your family will see their mermaid princess return, bringing a handsome prince with her. What? Ariel was stunned. But you are human and cannot go into the sea. For humans, only the dead who sink to the bottom of the sea can go to Sea King's palace. The prince smiled and replied, normally, mermaids can't grow legs and come ashore either. But aren't you standing before me? Ariel was stunned. That's why I came to see the wish magician. Prince Eric bowed deeply to the silent silver-haired young wish magician. Respected wish magician. Since you have the potion that made Ariel lose her fishtail and grow legs, can you brew a potion with the opposite effect? A potion that merges humans' ugly legs into a fishtail. Make me a mermaid too. Ariel was astonished. The next moment, she reacted. Wait, no, how do you know Rhine is? Yes. I am the wish magician who gave Ariel the potion in the deep sea. Rhine admitted freely. When he first met the prince, he needed to maintain an objective and neutral image, so he did not reveal the fact that he had previously known Princess Ariel. It was as if he truly was an incredibly objective diviner, obeying the king's command to reveal Ariel's true identity. But now, that disguise was no longer needed. As expected, Prince Eric sighed lightly, then showed a hint of a youth's smugness at having guessed correctly. When I was watching the divination scene you provided, I noticed that the wish magician who gave Ariel the free potion, although his face was blurry, his posture was very much like yours. Last night, Ariel and I talked a lot, and I mentioned you many times. She's truly not good at lying, because besides her beautiful little mouth, her eyes also speak. Thank you, respected wish magician. If it weren't for you giving Ariel a free potion, I wouldn't have been able to hear her beautiful voice. Rhine nodded slightly. Prince, as you said, I can indeed refine a potion that turns humans into mermaids. Because my alchemy is superior to that of the sea witches. Just as my potion can make fish grow human legs, by using several herbs from the forest to reverse the properties of the medicine, it can merge human legs into a beautiful fishtail, granting them the ability to breathe in the sea. This potion only changes the body, not the soul. Just as Ariel could not automatically gain an immortal soul after becoming human, Prince, after you become a mermaid, you will still retain your original immortal soul, and you can also share this immortal soul with Ariel. However, even if Ariel is turned back into a mermaid with that potion, the curse already on Ariel will not be lifted. To lift that curse will be much more troublesome. Prince Eric listened carefully to Rhine's explanation. Then, the human prince took the mermaid princess's hand. This is truly wonderful, Ariel, did you hear? Let us drink that potion together and become two mermaids in the sea. We will leap into the sea together and swim freely. Last night, you told me so much about your life in the sea, about your Sea King's palace and your sister's gardens, about the pearls and shells used as decorations on the Sea King's palace, about how the stars and sun looked dimmer yet larger when you viewed them from the sea. You told me that when you looked up from the sea, if you saw a large cloud-like shadow, it meant a ship or a giant whale was passing by. These are such magnificent scenes, ones I can't even imagine. I can't wait to see such sights. When we become mermaids and return to the deep sea's palace, your sisters and Sea King will surely be overjoyed to see their little mermaid princess return. We will have a wedding in the deep blue sea, and all the mermaids will bless us then. You will be able to be with your family again. Ariel covered her mouth, unable to speak, her eyes misting over. My Ariel, there is no better ending than this, not even the most skilled novelist could write a more perfect ending. Just imagine, even if I had never been engaged, and our sacred marriage faced no obstacles, even if tomorrow the herald rode through the entire kingdom announcing our engagement, even if we ultimately married under the priest's witness, holding hands and receiving the bishop's blessing, making vows for all eternity. Would that truly be a perfect ending for you? No, it wouldn't. My Ariel, in such a scenario, you might gain love and an immortal soul, but you would forever lose your family, lose the homeland you once loved. You would forever remain in the land kingdom, unable to return to that blue sea. Thank my Sea King. And thank the Princess of Enda, whom I've never known, who was arranged to marry me. They gave me a reason to escape the palace on land. I can follow you to that palace in the sea, I can meet your family, and greet them. We will dance together, sing together in the sea palace, and finally, together, turn into foam on the waves. Ariel's voice trembled. She wanted to refuse loudly, but the images of her great-grandmother, Sea King, and sisters successively appeared in her mind. But, Eric, you will lose so much that way. You will lose your beautiful human legs, become a non-human monster, lose your noble status as a prince, and forever leave your Sea King and the Sea Kingdom, just to be with me. Prince Eric smiled again. Isn't that what you once did for me? Ariel was momentarily speechless. Just as the two were gazing at each other affectionately, Rhine, oblivious to the romantic atmosphere, handed out 2 jars of brown medicinal wine. The potion to turn human legs into a fishtail is ready. That fast? Ariel was astonished. It's always faster when you're skilled. Rhine shrugged, stroking the large dog from which he had just drawn blood. The potion to turn human legs into a fishtail is different from the previous potion. It's not like clear water, but like bitter yet fragrant wine. Mermaids only need a simple reason to come ashore, but humans who want to become mermaids inevitably need a complex story, bitter yet full of meaning, like this medicinal wine. Rhine explained. Does this magical medicinal wine that can turn one into a mermaid have a nice name? Prince Eric took the medicinal wine, thanking him while asking curiously. I added mermaid's tears as an ingredient, so it's called, Pearl Terre Lament. Rhine recalled some things from his previous life and couldn't help but laugh. Just kidding, it doesn't need a name. Rhine, my human friend, respected wish magician, you have helped us again. I truly don't know how to repay you. Ariel said excitedly. When I've decided what I want, I will tell you. Rhine said. Having accumulated another favor, Rhine couldn't help but sigh. This wish magician, indeed accumulated favors very easily. He would have to think about how to use these favors later. Each holding a bottle of brown medicinal wine, the two looked at each other, asking with some trepidation. Respected wish magician and diviner Rhine, you can see the future that we cannot. When do you suggest we go to the coast, grow fishtails together, and leap into the sea? Rhine shook his head. I don't recommend that you drink this potion now and elope to the sea immediately. I had a premonition last night that you might soon encounter a turning point in your destiny. You can completely wait a few more days to see what this turning point in destiny is before making a decision. Prince Eric and Ariel nodded, thanking the magician who had helped them repeatedly. Afterward, Ariel chatted with Aurora for a while, talking about many of her experiences after coming ashore. The two princesses, who had unusual experiences, talked a lot. After that, the lovers, Prince and Ariel, bid farewell and left. After seeing off Prince Eric and Princess Ariel, Aurora recalled their conversation just now. Prince Eric said there was no better ending. There was no better ending than for the two of them to become mermaids together, jump into the sea, and live forever in the deep blue ocean. This way Ariel can return to her family, and Prince Eric will no longer be bound by his father. Rhine smiled, responding with his peculiar sense of humor. That's because their imagination isn't good enough. Prince Eric and Ariel followed the magician's instructions and did not immediately drink the potion that would turn their legs into a fish tail, but waited patiently for a few days. In the following days, Prince Eric had a set of men's clothes made for Ariel so that she could accompany him on horseback. They rode through the woods, green branches gently brushing their shoulders, and birds singing in the sunlight. They cherished this time immensely, as it might be their last days on land. Ariel accompanied the prince up a high mountain, looking at the clouds and birds below. This reminded her of her time in the sea, when she was high in the water, looking at the small fish swimming below. A few days later, on the day the Enda delegation returned home by ship, the turning point in destiny indeed appeared. The king summoned the prince. My child, I have some thoughts regarding your engagement. How about this? You take your attendants and go by ship to meet the little princess of Enda. Perhaps you will fall hopelessly in love with her the moment you see her. No one can say for sure about love. When you return, if you truly have no interest in that little princess at all, I will reconsider your marriage and may grant you freedom. Prince Eric was stunned. He never expected his father to make such a proposal. Didn't this imply that if he was truly not interested in that little princess, his father would not force it? Thank you for your generosity, my father. The prince thanked his father. What this magician said is true, a turning point in destiny has truly arrived. He looks like just a child, but he is a genius prophet. The prince sighed inwardly. Of course, this doesn't mean my father has truly changed his mind. I still have to consider the possibility of drinking the potion and eloping with Ariel to the sea. Looking at the prince's excited departing back, the king sighed softly, recalling what the Enda envoys had told him before they left. The Enda envoys said there was no need to worry about the prince's rebelliousness. They guaranteed that the reason the prince fell in love with others was simply because he had not yet seen their beautiful princess. The envoys also said that their kingdoms which had prophesied. When the prince truly sees that beautiful princess, he will fall hopelessly in love with her, and today's dispute will be meaningless. Because the prince of Shia kingdom and the princess of Enda are destined to be together, and no one can stop them. If it's really like this, then I don't need to worry anymore. The king sighed. However, speaking of prophecy, the king suddenly remembered. The diviner recruited a few days ago, the great magician from the Rose Kingdom, was still temporarily residing in his palace. I recruited a diviner before to help me investigate the background of that girl named Ariel. I've been busy dealing with the ENDA delegation lately and haven't had time to attend to this matter. According to what Eric said, that magician from the Rose Kingdom seems to have really divined something useful, at least he said the girl's name was Ariel. I wonder if there are any other details. Ah, wasn't Eric in charge of this matter? If he really divined some useful information, why has he been avoiding talking about it? Could it be that Ariel's background is very sensitive? So much so that Eric, who loves her, doesn't want to mention it. The king's thoughts drifted, and he immediately had his subordinate summon Rhine. The silver-haired little magician came before the king. Great magician from the Rose Kingdom, wise man who has come from afar, I would like to ask, have you divined the background of that girl named Ariel? The king asked curiously. The king still held considerable respect for a moderately famous foreign magician. He knew that kingdoms that offended powerful magicians generally did not end well. Of course, Your Majesty, Rhine replied. Where did she come from? Why does she have such a beautiful singing voice and such graceful dancing? The king asked again. The sage of Rose Kingdom answered truthfully. Ariel comes from a kingdom His Majesty has never understood. In that deep blue kingdom, every citizen has a voice like the music of the heavens and dances as light as butterflies. Of course, even in that kingdom, Ariel is one of the most outstanding in song and dance. So that's it. The king was slightly disappointed. It seems Ariel's singing ability is just a talent, not due to drinking some blessed magical spring water or elixir. This meant he couldn't replicate this talent. A kingdom even I haven't understood, perhaps haven't even heard of. It must be in a very, very distant place. The king didn't doubt that there were distant kingdoms in the world he hadn't heard of. This continent held too many secrets, with countless unexplored secret realms. He became somewhat interested in the kingdom Rhine spoke of. Esteemed magician, could you tell me something about that kingdom? If your divination magic can show some fragmented images of that kingdom, perhaps I might have heard of it too. Rhine smiled and replied, introducing it poetically. When I divined Ariel's origins, I saw the beautiful scenery of that kingdom. The ground there is covered with fine white sand, and strange trees and plants grow. There are many colorful small animals, never seen by people here, that joyfully flit among the branches and leaves. The most magnificent building in that kingdom is their palace. The walls of the palace are built of coral, and the high, pointed windows are made of the brightest amber. The palace is also inlaid with many large, bright pearls, any one of which could be the most splendid decoration on Her Majesty the Queen's hat. These beautiful things are quite valuable in the Sia kingdom, but they are common there, even ordinary children use them as toys. The king listened in astonishment, as if experiencing a dream. That truly is a special kingdom. If only we could trade with them. Let them sell us those common things, and we can sell them to other countries. That way, we would surely earn many, many gold and silver coins, making the entire Sia kingdom prosperous. But immediately, the king gave up this idea, sighing helplessly. Unfortunately, that kingdom must be very, very far away and hardly communicates with other countries in the world. Otherwise, why would their prices be so bizarre? They simply have no possibility of trading with our Sia kingdom. Temporarily forgetting that distant, dreamlike kingdom, the king finally asked the question that worried him. Esteemed magician, sage from a foreign land, perhaps you are unaware. My child, Prince Eric, has recently been passionately infatuated with Ariel, that girl from the Dream Kingdom. However, he is supposed to marry the princess of a neighboring country. Prince Eric is going to see that neighboring princess in the next 2 days. Tell me, will he change his mind? You are an excellent prophet or seer. What you can see must be far more than what I, an ordinary person, can. He deliberately used the term, neighboring country, instead of emphasizing, Enda, because the king knew that the magician's home country had once suffered Enda's invasion. Rhine rubbed the crystal ball theatrically, and silver light bloomed in his eyes. After a long time, the little magician finally made his prediction. I see the future. In the near future, Prince Eric will surely marry the youngest princess of the neighboring country. They will fall in love at first sight. They will fall hopelessly in love with each other, pouring their entire souls and emotions into each other. Their marriage will be a testament to the friendship between the two countries. All the citizens of both kingdoms will bless them. Having received the magician's prophecy, the king breathed a sigh of relief. His heart, which had been hanging, finally settled. Whether it's that witch from Enda or this sage of Rose Kingdom, these two highly skilled court magicians have both foreseen that Prince Eric will fall in love with and marry the neighboring country's princess. It seems that after Prince Eric truly sails to meet that little princess of Enda this time, his feelings will definitely change. Then I won't have to worry. The king thought gleefully. He further rewarded the magician with a great deal of gold and silver and sent him away. As he walked out of the court hall, a slight curve appeared on Rhine's lips. It seems I'm truly becoming more and more gifted at being a charlatan. I'm increasingly grasping the essence of being a prophet. Prophecy, in its literal sense, is one thing. How the listener understands it is another matter entirely. By the way, the Sea King and his subordinates are ready, they're just waiting for the right moment to arrive. Rhine muttered to himself. Thinking of this, Rhine couldn't help but sigh that being a prophet or seer was truly a good identity on this continent. These charlatans sounded objective and neutral enough. Whether what they said was right or wrong, kings and nobles would at most doubt their skill, rarely realizing that they themselves had their own agendas. Whether it was receiving Prince Eric's reception last time or the king's summons this time, Rhine had subtly grasped the essence of a prophet. Appear neutral on the surface, providing information to the employer. In reality, everything behind the scenes is conspired. How could such a prophecy not come true? The prince told Ariel the good news. He kissed her crimson lips and held her in his arms. My father wants me to meet the princess of Enda, saying that if I'm truly not interested in her, he will consider allowing our marriage. I've never been so eager to meet that little princess of Enda. I don't even need to do anything, just reject her. I can bring my retinue with me. My Ariel, you come with me too. Ariel was still a little worried. Why would your father make such a suggestion? Is he so sure that your feelings will change greatly after seeing that princess? The prince heard this and indeed felt there was something slightly off. Could it be that once our ship arrives in Enda, we will be forcibly kept there, unable to leave, until I agree to marry the little princess of Enda? This sounds a bit exaggerated, but it's not entirely impossible. They discussed various possibilities and finally made an agreement. If the situation truly becomes irreversible, we will both drink the medicinal wine, jump into the sea, and transform into merfolk together. Eric and Ariel, along with a large retinue, boarded a magnificent ship and set off for Enda. As the ship sailed across the sea, Ariel and Prince Eric talked a great deal about the ocean. They talked about calm seas and storms, about strange fish living in the sea, and what divers could see underwater. The surrounding attendants all thought that the young prince and the girl he had rescued were merely discussing their experiences at sea. Only this loving couple knew that what they were talking about was the place they were going to. The old witch of Enda was overjoyed when she heard that the prince of Shia Kingdom was coming by ship. She had known for a long time that the princess of Enda was the one who had saved the prince during the shipwreck. This was an encounter she had intentionally arranged. And the current Ariel was nothing more than an emotional substitute. When the prince met the princess, all destinies would be sealed. That naive princess, who had been studying the necessary royal etiquette in a distant temple, had also returned to Enda by ship, solely to greet the foreign prince. Although she was the youngest princess of Enda, she was still 2 years older than Ariel. She was also a beauty, with delicate and fair skin. The old witch combed the princess's hair as she sat, sprinkling fragrant spices on her. My princess, you will meet the prince of Shia Kingdom tomorrow. I have sprinkled a captivating fragrance on you, you will surely charm any man and make them yearn for you. Take this packet of spices. From now on, you can sprinkle them on yourself every day to remain forever charming and attractive. What the old witch said was not false. What she didn't tell the princess was that men who smelled this soul-captivating magical fragrance for a long time would be enchanted by her dark spell, lose their minds, and become puppets obedient to the old witch. From beginning to end, the princess of Enda was unaware of all the political schemes, not knowing that her fate had long been arranged by others. She did not know that she was another hidden blade for her father's conquest of the continent, and a tool for the court witch to join the witch society. I am ready to meet the foreign prince, the princess said. She was actually not very interested in the prince of Shia Kingdom, whom she had never met, but as a royal princess, she knew she was merely a pawn on her father's chessboard, with no right to choose. The princess was certain of who she deeply loved. In the past, under the guidance of the old witch, she had gone to a temple in a forest to learn all royal virtues and etiquette. One early morning, at dawn, the princess walked out of the temple as usual, bathed in the morning light, and happened to see a handsome young man lying on the shore, his face as pale as a corpse. He must have suffered a terrible shipwreck and been swept ashore by the waves. The princess woke the young man, called for nearby people to save him, and then turned and left. It was a beautiful encounter, yet it was etched into the heart of the princess. To this day, the princess did not know who the handsome young man was. Judging by his expensive silk clothes, still damp from the seawater, he must have been a wealthy young master. With a nervous heart, the princess looked up, gazing at the distant sea. A magnificent wooden ship was slowly approaching from afar, carrying none other than the prince of Xia Kingdom. Under the glow of dawn, the ship of Xia Kingdom sailed into the port of Enda Imperial City. The bells of the clock tower rang, the sound of harps drifted down from many tall buildings, soldiers waved their gleaming bayonets in salute, and heralds raised their fluttering banners. Before Prince Eric was about to disembark and proceed with the agreed plan to meet the seventh princess of Enda, he found Ariel once again. Ariel, you still have that medicinal wine, the one that can give you back your beautiful mermaid tail, the prince said. After I leave this time, I will return to this ship within 3 days. The prince added, if I don't return on time, I might have encountered some accident. For example, someone might force me to stay there until I accept the princess of Enda. This might be an agreement between my father and Enda. If I still haven't returned by the third sunset, drink that medicinal wine and jump into the sea. Under the nourishment of the seawater, you will grow back your beautiful mermaid tail. And I will do the same, secretly drink the medicinal wine and jump into the sea. We will meet together in the sea. We will meet as agreed, in the seawater beneath this ship. Then, you will take me to that deep-sea palace. Both my father and others will think we simply committed suicide by jumping into the sea, long dead. My sensible younger brother will finally be able to replace me, his useless elder brother, as the crown prince of Xia Kingdom. But no one will know that we are singing and dancing together in that world beneath the sea. No one will imagine that in that deep blue underwater palace, we will make vows of love and share immortal souls. Ariel nodded gently, clutching the brown medicinal wine in her package, and agreed to the prince's proposal. Oh, right, Eric, if you encounter trouble. Perhaps this item can help you. The mermaid princess handed a small, smooth silver mirror to Prince Eric. This was precisely the gift that the sorcerer Rhine had given her when she left the deep blue ocean. It could summon the sorcerer regardless of distance, seeking his help. However, Ariel had never used it until now. But perhaps Prince Eric would need to use it later. Just face the mirror and state the difficulty you've encountered. No matter how far away, the sorcerer Rhine will be able to hear. The prince thanked Ariel, waved goodbye, and walked down the magnificent ship. At the celebratory feast, Prince Eric finally met the princess of Enda. It's you. When this familiar face came into view, the princess of Enda was so surprised she couldn't believe her eyes. When those around her told her that this was the prince of Xia Kingdom, the princess almost thought she was dreaming, experiencing hallucinations from excessive longing. Prince Eric, do you still remember me? When your body lost its warmth and you lay on the shore, it was I who woke you up. From that day on, I fell deeply in love with you. The princess was extremely excited. I never knew that the young man I saved was actually the Prince of Enda and my fiancé. I never dared to hope to see you again. The most beautiful thing I longed for day and night, never daring to hope for, has now become reality. This must be the guidance of fate, a beautiful encounter arranged by destiny. The little princess spoke a lot in one breath. The old witch stood by, secretly rejoicing in her heart, waiting for the prince and princess to fall deeply in love. She knew that Prince Eric was a young man who loved romantic stories the most. When the woman who had once saved him now appeared before him again, he would surely not be able to control his surging emotions. Prince and princess. The rescued and the rescuer. They met once, longed for each other, and now they are reunited. Is there a more perfect match made in heaven than this? The princess opened her arms. She could not wait another moment to embrace the prince tightly. However, Prince Eric merely stood quietly in place, not offering his embrace to the princess who waited with open arms. His dark eyes gleamed, and a faint smile hung on his lips. Princess, I am also quite surprised to see you here. I remember you. When I lay on the shore like a corpse, you were the one who saved me. For many days past, I have always remembered you and this kindness. Thank destiny for guiding us to meet here. Otherwise, I would forever lose the chance to express my gratitude to you, my savior. His words were incredibly sincere, and his emotions were quite genuine, but they lacked the burning passion that lovers in deep affection should have. It seemed as if he was merely stating certain facts. Thank you. I will forever remember your kindness. I will try my best to find a way to repay it. Saying this, the prince placed one hand on his chest and performed a standard royal bow to the princess. But please forgive me, beautiful princess, my savior, I cannot accept your love. I am overjoyed to meet you, and incredibly excited to express my gratitude to you in person. We can become close friends who share everything in the future, but I cannot enter the halls of marriage with you. The princess was both shocked and confused, simply unable to believe what she had heard. The prince's sincere words struck her heart like a thunderbolt. Why? She asked loudly, completely abandoning the royal lady's etiquette she had learned in the temple. The prince took the princess's hand, staring into her equally sapphire blue eyes, and said earnestly, because I have already given my heart to another person. She, like you, once saved me. When I was floating in the cold seawater like a corpse, it was she who bravely rescued me. But she is also different from you, we only met once and do not know each other well. However, she and I have experienced many things. She has paid too much to be with me, and I am willing to pay the same price. I love her more than anyone else, and I am willing to place my hand on her chest and recite vows for all eternity in the presence of the priest. Do not be disheartened by this, beautiful princess. You are so kind and well educated. There will be a prince more handsome, more talented, and more like a future king than I am to marry you, not an immature, rebellious youth like me, full of fantasies. The princess was dumbfounded, her eyes slightly stinging. She stood frozen like a wax figure after hearing these cruel, thunderous words. Oh, gods! How can there be such a cruel thing in the world? To put the most beautiful and most cruel things in the world within a minute, letting them happen one after another. When I saw the person I had yearned for, thinking I would never see her again, reappear before me, and it was the prince I was engaged to, I felt like I had entered heaven, only to fall into an abyss in the blink of an eye. The princess of Enda wept in her heart. Watching Prince Eric reject the seventh princess of Enda, the old witch was also stunned. Had that girl named Ariel, with the beautiful singing voice, really enchanted the prince to such an extent? This was truly unbelievable. Should she not just be a substitute for the person the prince loved? Wait, something is wrong. Very wrong. Did that girl named Ariel save Prince Eric in the sea? Suddenly, the old witch remembered something based on the prince's description. She rushed out of the hall and back to her private study, flipping through all the books containing magical knowledge and ancient secrets. The old witch recalled all the information about Ariel, her withered hands rapidly turning the yellowed pages. The rustling sound echoed in the secret room. The flickering candlelight cast the witch's terrifying shadow on the wall. Able to save people in the stormy sea. Possesses an extraordinarily beautiful singing voice. Her dance is as light as a fish. Mermaid. Only a mermaid from the sea can satisfy all these conditions simultaneously. That girl named Ariel might be a mermaid from the deep sea. My plan was actually ruined by an intruding mermaid. The old witch gnashed her teeth in anger, but also felt slightly confused. But that girl named Ariel, no matter how I look at her, she's just a human, isn't she? At least that girl has human legs. Of course, in a world with magic, nothing is impossible. With this doubt, the old witch rapidly flipped through various books in her study. Every few seconds, she would take a book from the dusty shelves, quickly flip through a few pages, and then throw it aside. After searching dozens of books, the old witch's eyes suddenly lit up. Found it. This book says that there might be certain magic or potions in the world that can transform a mermaid's tail into human legs. However, the reason such mermaids have never been seen is because, according to an ancient secret, mermaids are low-level beings without immortal souls, and if they transform into human form, they will be abandoned and cursed by the world. On the same dawn that her beloved marries someone else, the mermaid's heart will shatter, and her body will directly turn into sea foam. The old witch was quite excited by her discovery, and a crazy and wicked idea had already popped into her mind. This means that if Prince Eric and the princess are forcibly married now, that mermaid who ruined my plans will die on the spot. Thanks for watching.